How y'all doing? Y'all can unmute your microphones if you want to, and we can chat a little bit for a couple minutes. Oh,
Hey guys.
hey,
Hey, no.
who hadn't been to one of these meetings before? Anybody?
I have not.
Okay, well, welcome. It's
Thank you.
it's not super structured, or I guess I could say it's not even organized real well sometimes, but it is what it is.
This is my first, Gerald.
Oh, is it? Okay, welcome. We've been doing them for a few weeks, and I enjoy them. It gives me my chance to run my mouth about welding for a little while. But I'm going to try to not run my mouth as much as I want to. Hey, Michael, I see you're here. We'll go ahead and get started here in just a few seconds, and then I will turn over the control to you here in just a minute.
That sounds good. Thank you.
All right, so we'll go ahead and get started. Again, some of y'all haven't been here before. I imagine there'll be people popping in. If I could find the little button to turn that buzzer off, I would. Let's see here. So we've been having these meetings here for, I think this is the 5th or 6th one. I can't remember now. I'd have to go back and look through my notes to allow some welding instructors to get together and talk about some different things. I know there's a lot of issues going on. Probably not as pressing now that it's the end of the school year for a lot of us as it was a month or so ago. But hopefully we'll go over some information that may be helpful to you next year. Hopefully you may be interested enough to give an old fat guy something to do over the summer, and we'll keep on having some meetings if you're interested. What we're going to do today, let's just go ahead and, if you haven't been here before, type your name in the chat box if you don't mind. And just let us know that you're new. And if you want to, just take over the microphone, introduce yourself, say a little bit of stuff about yourself. And we don't have quite as many people here today, and possibly just one presenter unless you hang out with me for a little while later and just get to know some folks. If you want to say who you are, just jump in there. Don't be shy. Well, I'll go through me once more. My name's Gerald Austin. I'm a welding instructor. Depending who you ask, I'm a welder. Also depends who you ask. I've been in the industry for about 40 years, and I still haven't got the hang of it. I've gone back and forth between welding and teaching and CWI work, and I ain't graded any one of them, but I do enjoy them all. Something I like to tell folks: don't confuse my enthusiasm with skill or ability. Just because I'm excited about it doesn't mean I'm any good at it, but I will share it with you. Anybody else? I'm in Northeast Tennessee, Northeast corner Tennessee, about an hour east of Knoxville, Tennessee. Anybody else?
Go UT.
I'm not a football fan, so everybody always asks me that because I was in Mississippi before and in Alabama, and I just like to hit people when I played football. I didn't really care who got the ball. I just want somebody to hit me. Anybody else?
Yeah, this is my first time. Appreciate you, Gerald, for doing these meetings. And it's always good to get like-minded people on the same conversation. I'm a CWI, CWE, 25 years, work for Arcosa Marine Products. And we've got plants all across the United States. And my main office is right outside of Nashville, Tennessee. Glad to be here.
Cool. You guys do any training in-house?
Yes, we do.
Cool. Not that we was going to throw you out if you wasn't associated with education, but we might make.
That's all. We do that every day.
Anybody else?
I'm Kurt Wilms, vocational welding instructor at Fountain Central High School.
Where's that located?
Petersburg, Indiana.
How long you been teaching high school?
6 years.
Cool. I'm a newbie. I just started high school this year, so I'm new to it. Anybody else?
Can anybody hear me?
Yeah, a little muffled.
Okay. My name is Jack Holly. I'm a welding instructor in Wabash, Indiana for a high school vocational school. 19 years.
Really? There's someone I can pick your brain.
Maybe.
Yeah. Anybody else want to say hi?
Hi, my name is Brad Hoda from Marion, Indiana. Been teaching
welding for juniors and seniors at MRCC for 15 years.
Wow.
And a Hobart graduate too.
And a Hobart graduate too. You had to throw that in there, didn't you? Nothing wrong with that. We'll talk later and you can tell me all the negative stuff about it so I can pass it on to my students.
I've got pros and cons of both. I've had students go from Tulsa Welding School, Hobart, Ivy Tech, or community college around here. So, I mean, I can give you my opinion, and that's all it is.
Yeah, the thing about that, and I think I might have talked about it in a previous meeting, there's very few people that have been to multiple organizations training. And even if they have, it's always going to be skewed because they've already had some prior training before they got there. Because you hear people talk about it for CWI training, who's his best and that kind of stuff. And you don't have the same perception as somebody that's just come off doing nothing related going to training as opposed to someone that's actually been to 2 or 3 courses. But even then, when you've been to 2 or 3 courses, you've got a different background on each one of them. So anybody else want to tell us about yourself? And like I said, put your information in the chat, and in the chat box will be something you can save there in the meeting, especially if you want to contact somebody, you've got a question for somebody. I think I've got it set where you can send a chat message directly to somebody else if you've got a question for them or hear them say something, and we'll go ahead and get started. Got that? So the hello we've done. The presentation we're going to kind of start off with it at the beginning is from Cengage Learning. And if some of you, I think, may have been to some of the WellDed meetings, they may have already presented there, I don't know. But Cengage makes quite a few textbooks. They've got a pretty interesting look on the online setup, and I'm definitely considering it myself. And Larry Jeffus, who writes one of the books, is on the phone right now, so he may be trying to get in. So again, we have Cengage do a little presentation on what they've got. That was Larry Jeffus, who's one of the authors of some of their books. Maybe worthwhile to get some information from him, maybe ask him a couple questions. Then we're going to go over the WellEd meeting. I'm going to go to a slide that's got the link for it. It's the actual meeting that they will have tomorrow. If you're interested in going, I got permission from them to share the link with you. So you can copy it. I put it in the chat meeting. And if you want to get in that meeting, I believe it's at 1 time tomorrow. They've had some pretty good topics, a little bit more organized than I am, and pretty good detail on some things. Checking in on. Someone's got their mic on, and I think it's just giving a little feedback. If you can turn it off, that'll help some. Next part is like, where's your pain? Just a general discussion so we can kind of talk back and forth. If you've got something that you might need some help with, I'm not going to go over everything that we've gone over in the past. I did ask for some feedback from some folks on a feedback form, and looking at that, there was some mention of some folks being long-winded. Pretty sure I know who they were talking about. So we'll try to move through the meeting fairly quick and let some other folks talk besides just me. And then the last part there is there was some tools that I discovered that can make some online content that can be downloaded as what's called SCORM packages, if you're familiar with that, LTI objects, or just standalone HTML5 presentations. And if you're interested, when we get to the end of it, we'll stay around. I can kind of show you how those work a little bit, but I'm not expert. I just found them, 2 of those 3 last week. Are you there, Michael?
I'm here.
All right, I'm gonna turn it over to you. I don't have admin rights. If you have any questions, put them in the chat box, and then I will, because Michael will be doing a presentation. I will, when we get to the end of it, we'll go through those real quick.
All right, Gerald, thank you for having me here. My name is Michael Gasparic. I'm with National Geographic Learning Cengage. I'm the rep in the state of Tennessee. I cover our K-12 products for in Tennessee. So Gerald, we had a conversation a few weeks ago about our digital platform, just because of the situation the schools are in now with distance learning and not really knowing what's going to look like going forward, especially for the fall in some areas. So that's going to be the main point of my presentation, is kind of our digital product that goes along with the welding book. I'm not going to get into the welding book as much. If You all at some point need samples. I'm gonna give the digital access logins to Gerald. He can post on his website if you want something customized for your school or your district. Let me know. I can get you in touch with the rep that covers your state. I heard there's a few from Indiana, so wherever you're at, we can get you set up. But we do have a new edition of Jeffus' Welding Principles and Application. That's the book there. You can all see my screen, right?
Yep.
Okay. It's the 9th edition. It's coming out. I think the print edition might be available. The digital's a little bit behind. But you can see the pricing here, and we can customize a package to your specific needs. If you want print only, digital only, or a combination of both, we could set you up with 6-year access, 1-year access if you go 1 year at a time. But it'll give your students the full book online, along with all the other capabilities like your simulation station, which we'll touch on a little bit too. Access, we can set it up through your LMS if we want to go that route. Anything that's LTI compliant, we can do a full integration with. We can do partial integrations. We can set up through one roster, or even just self-registration. That's one of the easiest ways to go too. So we'll customize a package with you. We'll help you get everything up and running as you go. So that's just a little bit of information about how the ISBNs and the pricing. Simulation Station is a website we have set up for a lot of our CTE product. We have a lot of simulations that go along with these. So I'll start out with, I can't get into it in the actual ebook. It'll take a little bit too much time, but I want to show you the video, kind of an overview of it. So this is the trade side of our simulation station. You can see all what's available there. And if we go into our welding, do you have a question, Gerald?
We're not seeing your.
You're not seeing it? Okay, let's see here. Gerald, you seen it now?
Yeah, we're seeing it.
Okay, perfect. So if I click on our welding section, I'm gonna play a short video for y'all.
Welcome to the virtual welding shop.
That better?
This video is a guided walkthrough to familiarize you with the virtual welding shop. The welding table and other equipment found in a welder's workshop are present on the main screen. All the tools needed for welding are present in the horizontal panel in the bottom of the screen. You may click on the arrows pointing to either side of the tool panel to navigate left or right. You are expected to execute the welding process by adopting the right procedures, following proper safety precautions, choosing the right equipment, and selecting the proper settings. At any time when you are working in this environment, you can click on this icon to see a summary of the activity you are expected to do. If you want to refer to the blueprint, you may click on this icon. You may use the close icon to go back to the virtual environment. Clicking on the video icon will play this walkthrough video. Clicking on the audio icon repeats the last audio. You can switch the display of closed captioning on or off by clicking this icon. A chart of welding symbols is found on the wall of the welding shop. If you want to refer to the welding symbols at any time while working in the simulation, you can click and open the welding chart. Clicking the Close button takes you back to the simulation. To select a tool, you can drag and drop that tool onto the welding table. To select equipment or a gadget from the workshop, you may use your mouse to click on it if using a computer, or use a finger gesture if on a tablet device. Your score increases with every activity you complete correctly. You will need to score at least 50% to clear the level. You will be prompted to retake the module if you do not score a passing minimum. Your score will be determined by your answers and responses to the questions, and the choices you make on the various tasks in this module. Upon completion of the questions, you can view your scorecard and proceed to the next module. A detailed progress report of your performance will be provided once you finish all 3 modules. Good luck.
That was just a quick overview of kind of what the simulations entail. And if you decide to get into the trial account on your own, you can also get in there and kind of play around with them. I'll show you exactly where those are at. Here's the information for the trial account, which Gerald's free to post on his website. I think it expires around the end of July. If we get into the portal, This is a sign-on link. If not, it's nglsync.cengage.com. It'll take you directly to the login page. If for some reason you get stuck and you go to the Find Your School page, it's not going to be the school you teach at. We would just type in trial account. It'll auto-populate, and we'll go from there. And then you have your login available. More than one person can be in at a time, so the 5 should be plenty. And then all the passwords are welcome one. So this takes us to which would be the teacher dashboard. Any courses you have to be listed here. This is the new look in the bottom. The content's not loaded into our demo account yet, so I'm going to go into the 8th edition. But a few things you know. One is the Cognero tab.
Michael, your audio is fading in and out. I'm not sure if you're moving away from a mic or back, but I wanted to let you know.
Okay. So Cognero is basically exam view. If you've all used the exam view CD-ROM in the past, it's all online now. So this is basically what your exam view used to be. The instructor companion link, this is the online resources for the instructor. So you can see all the resources available to you to use within your class would be stored right here. Some of the editions do have some print resources. It just depends on the specific. And each book is different as far as what's loaded into the teacher companion site. But you can get into all these links here and kind of see, play around and see what's available for you to use. And if we launch course, this will take us directly into our MindTap platform. So MindTap, it was a higher ed digital product, which we rolled down into the 9-12 market a few years back. If you have a student that's taking this course in MindTap and either goes to a community college or university and they take a Cengage course, it will be the same platform. So they'll be pretty familiar with how to navigate the platform. This view here is the teacher view. Student view looks exactly the same, except that students don't have the ability to add, create, edit, show hidden. And over here for you, it would be your class averages, would just be their scores. Everything they do as far as assignments within MindTap is pre-graded and thrown into that gradebook for you, which you could either upload into your LMS, or if we integrate it, it'd be fully integrated with your LMS system. To start out, here's a simulation reference guide. So this is going to tell us what chapters do have the simulations. So those are the simulations that are embedded in MindTap for this particular book. And then as we go through, you see the different folders. The first few over here is the number of activities in each folder. So the SP2 welding bundle, a lot of safety material here for the students to go through to learn and actually be quizzed on to make sure they completely understand. But your first 2 folders are going to be those SP2 folders. And then after that, we're getting into the textbook. If we click on each individual one, what's loaded into that section. Each section is a little bit different. You can see section 1 has 2 chapters and some videos. Section 2 has 4 chapters in the videos. And as we get into each individual chapter, those are going to be laid out pretty much the same. You're going to have the first section, you're going to have a PowerPoint review, you'll have a reading, and then you can see this one, chapter 2, is laid out the same way. So the feel of it, as you navigate through it, it'll be pretty consistent from section to section. I'm going to get into a reading and kind of show you some of the features and benefits that are loaded in there for you and the student.
Hey, Michael, I want to let you know your audio was going in and out. I don't know if you heard me before.
Okay, I'm gonna grab my headphones real quick and see if that helps. Give me 1 second. All right, so this is actual part of the text within the particular ebook. A few of the features and benefits. One is the read speak.
Welding defined. A weld is defined by the American Welding System.
So if we hit it up here, it's going to start at the beginning of the book. We do also have the ability to highlight a particular section of text and read that individual text alone.
Enough heat is applied to raise the temperature high enough to cause softening or melting, and the pieces float.
And you see it highlights as it goes, and it tracks the word as it reads too. Over on the side in the toolbar, there's a read speaker icon. If we open up that app, that'll allow the student to adjust the reading speed and also the voice to kind of customize it to their needs. You can adjust the font size, you can bookmark pages, you can also print pages. And as we go through, if we highlight or click and highlight, then you'll have the ability to highlight individual text. These four colors here, the student has, if you do any highlighting in those colors, it's saved in your particular ebook. As the instructor, if you save in the orange with the arrow, all of that gets pushed out to your students when they log in. So as you're going through highlighting in orange, anytime they log in, that'll be available for them right there. You can also take a note within the book. If you just hit save, it'll save and only be viewable to you in your account when you log in. If we hit the share button, that save will also share out with, that note will share out with your students as well. So when they log in, they'll see those notes. So a great resource for you to be able to go in, highlight important parts of the text, take notes for the students on important parts of the text that'll be there, that'll be on the test or on the quiz. So all these notes and highlights are also stored over here in our app in our study hub. So it puts everything in one spot for the students. So as they're getting ready to study for the test, they can go, instead of going page by page, they can go through here, click notes and highlights. Everything that they've done will be saved right there for them. So they could print it out from here. They could look at it on their phone while they're waiting for the bus or whatever it might be, or waiting for when they're doing their studying. If they click on one of those links, there's a blue arrow that'll take them back directly to that page as well. And any pages they bookmark would be housed there too. So that's over there in the app bar. There are also built-in flashcards. So there are flashcards that are already created, loaded into the book. The students and you, the teacher, can also create customized flashcards to be added to the deck. So a few other features that you can do as the teacher to really customize the book. You have this pencil icon, which will turn on edit mode. You've noticed some little plus marks pull up now within the book. So if we click a plus mark, this allows you to add content directly to the book. So if there's resources you've been using for years to teach your course, it allows you to embed them directly into the ebook, into the learning path. As the student logs in, they'll see it right away. So you could add from Google Drive, you could add web video search, you could create a new assignment, embed it directly into the text, pull from Microsoft OneDrive, whatever it is that you might be using. So we'll do a web video search real quick. Just a quick search for welding. And whichever one it might be you want to add, you would click it, hit continue. You could put a text before and also a text after the video. Hit continue, and there it is, loaded directly into the learning path. So whether it be a document, a PDF, a spreadsheet, whatever it might be, you can load it in directly into the learning path. So as we go through here, you see there are some that are going to be count towards a grade, and some are just going to be practice. So all that we can edit as well. So if we turn on the edit feature, you can see any activity we have open, there's the edit. So if you teach things in different orders, in a different order than what's in the textbook, it'll allow you to rearrange chapters and rearrange content. You could change titles, you could add descriptions, you could add start and due dates, and then here's where you'd be able to move the content around to suit your particular needs. And when we get into a test or a quiz, it gives us some additional edit activities. And each assignment is going to be a little different as far as what features you can edit and what there is that you can do. So here it allows us to, it's default as homework. We could, as for the assignments, we could do unlimited takes, grading, we can change the score, questions, We could regenerate in algorithmic questions. We could shuffle questions, check their work. So a lot of options for you to do when you're actually going through and creating your course within MindTap. It also gives you the ability to hide content. So you could hide individually one by one, or if we came through and clicked the boxes, we could do a batch action and hide chapters at a time. So if you only want students to be able to view what chapter you're working in that particular time and not work ahead and go forward, you can hide them. You can only make them available on certain dates as well if you wish. So if we go into chapter 3, you can see at the bottom of this one, there is the simulation station. So we'll start the assignment. And for the shielded metal arc welding, you have module 1, module 2, module 3. When you log in, you would just click on one of these to play the video, and you can kind of walk yourself through the whole simulation process, kind of like they showed within the particular video that we watched at the beginning there. You also have the ability to add and create your own activities, your own units, or your own folders. So when you're adding that, those customized resources that you've been using, you could either put it directly into the learning path or kind of create your own with that feature there. So over on the toolbar, to kind of walk you through here, this is where you would log into Google Drive or OneDrive to be able to access your resources to embed into the learning path. My Notes is linked with Evernote, which is a free app. I know it's used in the higher ed market quite a bit, but if any of your students use Evernote, they could link it to their MindTap accounts. You can set up your RSS feed. You've got a full glossary. In this app, this will allow you to create kind of a career portfolio. So anything that the student's working on, they can throw into their portfolio, whether it be a resume, certifications they earn, and that they can use when going to apply for a job. They're going to have all of their resources all in one spot, saved in that particular app form. There is also a full ebook instead of the ebook that's over on the left, kind of broken up into chunks. This will look just like the print textbook, and they can go through it. It's not going to have the questions and the quizzes in this part. This is going to be more for reading. Study Hub we talked on, the Read Speak app we talked about, the See Now, the homework app. This is another resource for you to use to be able to customize and put questions and embed it directly into the learning path for the students, which will be pre-graded for you. The SP2 app, which connects to these two first folders in the learning path. Here's your flashcard app, and then down at the bottom is our progress app. So we don't have students, so I'm going to go into the sample report. So the overview tab is going to go through by chapter and by section. It's going to give you an overall average score, number of submitted. We could be able to click on each one of those links to drill down directly into that activity. The analytics tab is going to give us a good overview for each student, kind of where they're at. Each one of these dots would be a student. It would allow you to click on that dot and drill down into the students' results and activities. And this is basically an engagement level, so it's going to measure their scores, how long they were spent in the course, number of logins and activities they've accessed. So it'll really let you know if the student's really not logging in, spending the time they need to within the particular assignments and chapters. Then you have your overall grade book. Very similar, it's going to measure that score, engagement level, time of course, logins, and activities. You can go through, click by activity, and drill in a little bit deeper. And then your categories as well allow you to customize the names of the categories, the weightings in each category, and then if you create any additional activities, this is where you would put that weight and the name of it. So that's kind of an overview of the MindTap platform. So if you do log in through the demo account, you kind of have an idea as far as where everything is and kind of how to access everything. If you log in, feel free to play around with it, mess around with it, move things around. If you want to play with adding resources in, you're not going to hurt anything. But that's kind of why we set it up for you all to be able to use it. Any questions at all?
I didn't see any come up in the chat box, so I get to ask mine first. Does the reading that you were going through earlier, does that works on a PC and a mobile device?
Yes. Yeah.
And,
exactly.
And the students accessing everything through the internet, so it doesn't really make a difference when on the device, correct?
Right. Yeah. So it's accessible on any device. There is a MindTap app as well, so it'll kind of format it to the device that they're on. They can download parts of the full book. So if they need to read offline, they can do that. I just wouldn't recommend downloading the whole ebook. It'll probably eat up all their data or all their memory.
They are very data sensitive.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, and wherever they have internet access, they'd be able to access it.
Yeah. All right. Another one that I had was the $135 fee for the seat. That includes the simulations, basically everything that you've shown us, correct?
Yep. Everything that's in there is automatic. It comes with it. Exactly.
Okay.
Yep. And one thing too, I didn't mention when I was talking about the access points. So we don't deal with codes anymore. It's a seat license. So say you buy 25 seats with that 6-year digital access, you'll have 25 seats per year for 6 years. So 25 times 135 would be your upfront cost, but you'd have those seats for 6 years. If a student drops out, transfers, moves, whatever it might be, that seat becomes available again. So you would have had 24 seats and one empty. So and you can transfer in another student to use up that seat. If you teach it twice a year in the fall and spring, you'll have your 25 students at the beginning of the year. They'll transfer out, and then when your spring course starts up, you load your new 25 students in.
So that seat can be reset, like all their information that they put in for their own personal use or their notes.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly, and that's all dependent upon how you get the digital material delivered to you, whether it's self-registration or one roster. We would just roster a new student in, or they'd self-register in. So
okay, yeah. So we have to send it to you to get that done. It's not something the instructor can take care of.
No, either or.
Okay.
Yeah, either or. Yep.
And another question, you had mentioned interfacing with other programs. Does it work single sign-on?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So like through Blackboard, are you talking about LMS?
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's like I think 5 or 6 LMS we do a full integration with, which means they would go into, say, Canvas, log in through Canvas, their grades would report back to Canvas. That would be a full integration. But yeah, we could do the single sign-on, whether through there or whether through, I know Clever is another one we do a single sign-on with. So it's going to be a case-by-case depending on what system your school uses. But we'll work with you to get that all set up and up and running.
Mike, I got a question as far as the classes. Do they have like an archive where you can go back and pull up maybe some prior year grades or students?
It's not saved on our end. So if you did integrate with one of your LMS systems at your school, I'm sure those LMS systems would be able to go back, but we wouldn't be able to go back on our end and pull up grades.
Okay. And with the quizzes that's given, are they preset, or can we go in and change some of the questions around? Or
you can't change questions on the quizzes, but you can create your own as well.
Okay.
So if we went into this Chapter 9 quiz here, we could adjust how many attempts, how long that we would give them per, stuff like that. You can adjust, but the quizzes that are set up directly in here aren't customizable, but you can add your own if you wish.
Okay.
Could you create your own quiz using the questions that already exist from a question bank, or would you have to enter your own?
Yeah. No, a combination. You could do either. So that would be through the See Now app. You could use what's in there, or a combination of creating some of your own questions as well. Through there or through Cognero would be the other one.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions?
Yeah, Michael, how many current institutions are utilizing this online education?
I don't have an exact number for the nation, but are you looking at more higher ed or kind of a 9-12? Would you say
Either one.
either or? I think in higher ed, I think there's like 2.5 million users, somewhere around there. In our 9-12 market, I don't really have a number on the 9-12 market. I know in Tennessee, there's like 147 districts. I probably have about close to half of those use it in some fashion, in some subject area, because this is the same platform that we have for social studies, for science. Not really, some math, a little bit of our math use it. So it's across multiple subject areas as well. So not just CTE or just welding.
Okay. I didn't know how hard it was for the educational systems in any state to accept or not accept their training curriculum and where that data comes from and the training comes from. I know some states like Tennessee, they recognize what the NCCER and AWS, and sometimes they'll give an option of the institution to pick which whatever they want.
Okay.
Not holding them to one or the other because there's similar content and they're valuable. So I didn't know how that compared to where this system played in Tennessee's educational system.
Yeah, I mean, this is just our company's platform that we use. So it's not, the platform's not aligned with any other organization. The content might be aligned with other organizations, but the platform is our platform, how we present it to our customers and our users.
Okay. I would like to talk to you some more after this. I'm actually on the Governor's Advisory Council for Advanced Manufacturing for Tennessee.
Okay.
So what we do is we literally review all the educational materials all across the state of Tennessee to make sure they're still relevant to what the industry needs based on what the educational system is teaching. So I would like to speak some more.
Yeah, perfect. And here's my email address down at the bottom if you want to jot it down real quick. Just shoot me an email and I'll call you back from there. But yeah, that'd be great.
I'd love to be involved with that if that's at all possible, because I'd love to discuss the curriculum and the requirements in Tennessee. But, I have looked at the textbook. Our TCAT here uses that textbook for the night class, which they come in right after us. And that's one of the reasons I'm considering swapping it over, not only because of the quality of the book, but also because it would be easier to align for dual enrollment students. But as far as the sense alignment goes, it's the content that's in those books covers the body of knowledge that someone would need to know to pass the AWS Sense exams when they're online. The Sense program doesn't require that you use a specific curriculum. It requires specific objectives being met. So, and the book, from what I've seen, covers it and more.
Can I make a comment?
Yep.
Am I on?
Yes, you're on, Larry.
Okay, I didn't get a box up here. A couple things. One, I'm the author of this book along with several others. And Jared has my contact information. I freely pass it out to anyone who would like it. My home phone, my home address, my cell phone, my personal email, I have passed out for years and I found it very beneficial. If you want to write down my email, it's pretty simple. It's just like my name, larry@jeffus.org. And as far as the state, I have been to South Carolina, North Carolina. I've worked on Idaho and Utah state adoptions and Texas. And so if you feel that any input from me would be beneficial, just let me know. I'd be happy to do what I can and even come up. I always like to get back to Tennessee. Graduate of the University of. So, those are available. As far as alignment goes, this is the only book that has authority of the AWS to carry the AWS logo and the Sense logo on the cover. They've allowed that because I do meet all of their requirements for their Sense program. And as far as availability, Gerald and I have talked several times this week. And so, I'm always happy to visit with instructors and help you with anything that you might feel that I can help you with, your students or your program.
Well, no, the state of Tennessee is one of their main focus is that whatever's being taught is that student can come out with some type of certification or credentials,
right,
that would help them possibly get employment over someone that did not have that credential or certification.
Right. That came out of the Department of Education a number of years ago, and virtually every state has that now. That a student has to have a third-party certification on their abilities, and that's what the Sense program offers.
Yeah, what the argument is at these board meetings has always been, where does that certification come from, and does it make a difference on where it comes from, and the associated cost of the school system to pay for that certification if there is one attached.
And unfortunately, that's an issue across the country. I've been 36 states and 6 foreign countries in the last 4 years visiting welding programs. This year, I was in Memphis visiting a program already and got shut down with the virus, had to come home. But I visited schools in Florida, Tennessee, and that's 2020. Last year, I visited schools in, I guess, Washington State, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, Florida, Missouri, and some others. I don't remember. I travel a lot.
One of the, one of the requirements that we have is it's optional. It either Sense or the AWS certified welder, either one of those two meet the requirements, I believe, based on the standards. And, the question about whether one is better or which one's better and accepted by industry is one that's been out there for a long time. You can find different articles on Sense versus this and that and the other. But the thing about it is oftentimes industry itself doesn't know what a certification is. I deal with, we're going to become an ATF here in Greenville. I've already got the information turned into AWS. We're going to actually have our audit this month, but it got canceled by COVID-19. But industry itself doesn't necessarily even understand what an industry certificate is for welding for the most part. The Sense program in my book, there's a knowledge factor. They've got to pass a written exam, and they also have to do a skills test. For AWS certified welder, they do not have to demonstrate any knowledge whatsoever. They can just show up, fill up a groove, passes, bends, and they're an AWS certified welder. Both of them sound like an industry certificate. One of them, the person demonstrated skills and knowledge. The other one, the person just demonstrated skills. So there's a difference in the programs, but they're covered in both of ours. But this book wouldn't help necessarily with somebody wanting to become the AWS certified welder because it's skill based only. It would help, okay, because there's some really good on-hand demonstrations in there and the way that it's addressed compared to many textbooks. But it would definitely be a tremendous asset for meeting the requirements of the Sense online written computer-based tests. It looks like it's a pretty good one.
Well, one thing also, Gerald, they also have to remember is there's a difference between a qualification and a certification too.
Once I put my signature on it, it becomes a certification. That's once my signature goes saying that somebody did something, I've certified that they did it a certain way. But it's definitely but again, within industry, there's definitely some confusion there.
Within your region, your reputation, your program reputation carries more weight than certifications. If you say a student has got the skills, industry, knowing your program and knowing your graduates, works out significantly in your benefit. So being involved in the AWS and being involved with local industry I found tremendously helpful over the years.
Yeah. I suggest to my students that they don't bring up certifications necessarily other than put them on their resume, but don't make that the primary part of their interview process, for instance. You know, write it on there. It's just a resume item. You know, I've been a CWI for 40 years. I'm looking for work for the summer. Or not a CWI, I've been a welder for 40 years, a CWI since 1990. Nobody's beating my door now to come hire me because of a piece of paper. I've still got to go out there and knock on doors and you know, find people that are interested in me doing something for them. And if I was to go get a job as a $20 an hour welder over the summer, it's probably best for me not to flash on my certifications, because those probably won't help. Those would be things that would even be a negative possibly for some potential employer. So it's kind of a funny game, the credentialing game. I'm done. Anybody else have any questions for Larry or for Michael? I mean, it's a great opportunity. I got to speak with Larry yesterday, and one of the reasons that I do this meeting is because I'm really interested in the information that other welding instructors have. And we talked for, I don't know, probably close to an hour, maybe more. And it was definitely good to be able to listen to someone else's opinion for sure.
One thing is, you know, I'm a retired welding instructor, but I am a welder. I weld on a regular basis now. I do fabrication and agricultural welding on a regular basis. It's the only way to stay current. So it's not just a matter of talking about it. I've been in the trenches. I've laid down in the mud and running a root pass on a 6-inch piece of pipe. Muddy, cold, wet, and nasty work at times, but very profitable.
Hey, Larry, I did have one other question in your book. How much does it cover PQRs and WPSs and the development of just welding procedures? How much does it get into?
I have an entire section on that, and in the 9th edition, I've changed all of the welding practices to a format where you have the material, the process, the amperage, all laid out much like you would have at the beginning of a PQR.
Okay.
Laid out. And so instead of the narrative form in the 8th edition, these are all tables for the student to go through. But the welding procedure, where the A numbers, the F numbers, and metal and all of that, those are all laid out in a chapter for the student to go through and fill out. And then there are sample forms, and then there and I forget the chapter. I just finished writing questions on it. I'm sorry, I don't remember the chapter. But the student will go through and establish the welding procedure. They'll turn the machine on, they'll set it in mid-range, and then they'll lower the voltage, for example, until you don't have an acceptable weld. Then they'll raise the voltage. Then they'll change the wire feed speed, and they'll do the same thing. So what they're doing is establishing the parameters that you would have. So whenever you see a welding procedure specification, it says this voltage to this voltage and this amperage to this amperage, or wire feed speed to this wire feed, however they put it in, that's established. I had the opportunity to go through the High-Speed Rail Research Center in Chengdu, China, 2 years ago, as they are establishing the welding procedure for 309 stainless 3/4 inch that'll be used underneath the carriages of high-speed rail trains, and watching them make the short weld using a robot, change a parameter, make a weld, cut all of that out and check it. And that's exactly what the student has an opportunity to see, not only what they are, how they are able to write one, but to create one from their own activities. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, that's good that you have that in the book. And the reason I ask is I go across and I get to visit a lot of educational institutions all across the United States, and most recently Louisiana and Tennessee. And when we look at what Gerald's doing and they want to become an ATF and the requirements, And when you go in and you ask them for an amp and voltmeter, you want to calibrate their machine and they don't have an amp and voltmeter. And so then this is an educational institution. And then it goes back to what type of student are we seeing that go into the workforce that don't understand being able to set a machine properly to a welding procedure. How many tests or how many students go in to take a test to a manufacturer, and the first thing they do is go strike an arc instead of asking for the welding procedure you would like me to perform to, and being able to get all the correct data off the weld procedure. Today, that it just doesn't happen. And I see that all across, like I said, Louisiana. I visited 4 facilities in Louisiana, and not one facility had a welding procedure anywhere in the school. So I'm wondering where the disconnect is. And I mean, welding procedures are the foundation of a good quality sound weld. Do we all agree with that?
Yeah. Absolutely.
So if an instructor doesn't know what a welding procedure is and isn't teaching to one, what are they teaching?
That one's kind of odd because, I've, as a CWI, I've done quite a few industry audits and surveys of fabricators, and they don't do it either. Okay, I've been into probably more than a half a dozen fab shops that were doing AISC work that had all their paperwork good to go, had everything set up, everything was properly documented, but the welder actually never looked at the WPS. They knew where it was at. Or, I've been into ASME code shops that, they have a quality program that's written, and they're supposed to be applying those requirements, and they don't normally do because they're written with such a range that covers it. But I guarantee you could probably go on a pretty good handful of boiler jobs right now and ask a welder, a tube welder, where's your WPS at? And he's just going to grin at you. Go talk to the QC guy.
Well, I can tell you this thing. We're the largest one of the largest ATFs in the United States. We just had our 5-year renewal. I believe it was last year.
Wow.
Yeah.
Huh.
For our ATF, and they didn't have any findings with us, and we had to go. We actually, before they came in, we have a synchronizing machine. We went through and synchronized all our machines just to make sure everything was correctly, and went through all our procedures and make sure everything was up to date and correctly done for the ATF or for our renewal.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I've been in job sites like you were talking about that they have no standard. Every welder goes in and cranks the machine up. Someone will run hot, and you wind up with some pretty crappy welds.
Yeah.
And others, the machines are old enough to vote for Eisenhower. They've been around a long time, and they're out there trying to run students with it. Yeah. One of the things pushing is trying to get more and more quality control, and the American Welding Society is pushing that aspect also.
Yeah, but you think about it, it's easy for us to get up and preach on that high horse, but stuff is not falling down all around us. I've made quite a few welds that are still stuck together with $250s, that are 25 years old. So there's a definitely a delicate balance between overloading a student with new technology and high end. I know CWIs that don't know how to write WPS. That's actually one of the things that, talked about doing here is doing an actual class for how to properly qualify a welder. But there are many CWIs that don't understand what's required to properly qualify a WPS in accordance with B21 or Section 9 or D11 or whatever it may be. It exists. So we can't necessarily get a welding student up to that level unless they're really, really interested in it. Then we turn them loose, give them everything we got.
But to that case, I know you said you were just in Louisiana. I mean, if you'd want to come up to the Hobart and check out the school and see what we have, I'd love for you to come up and check it out.
I've been through your school, Hobart. It is impressive.
I know there are some first-class operations out there, and they do exist, and they've got all their P's and Q's, and it's what operational excellence looks like when it comes to education. But it's the other whatever percentage that is that are missing a lot of the tools and elements to make our students successful. Today's industry, they're looking for welders that are more sensitive to welding economics, adding value with every weld and not just fusing two pieces of material together. So,
And in my opinions, I don't hopefully anybody takes this to offense, but I think there's a disconnect between welders and engineers. If everybody agree to that, because sometimes the engineer thinks they're right, but it's actually, doesn't really work the way it should.
Oh, I agree. Totally agree. There's a disconnect. I think there always has been between engineers and welders. If you put the right size weld in the right location without any defects, it should give you the serviceability you expect.
Yeah.
There's even customers that don't know about welding that want a bigger, better weld, but they just don't understand that welding metallurgy and size and how well the correct size weld can hold and service your product. But I think economics is another thing in mitigating. I mean, the lower you can lower the risk of that weld failing or leaking or fracturing in service. If it's 10-to-1 today, but you can make it 100-to-1 tomorrow by a little bit of education and how these welds are developed and why they're made and why we want you to use optimum parameters, the better off we all are.
That same mentality, though, if it's not properly managed by someone that's familiar with cost control and things like that, can make it where you've got people welding out 8-inch Schedule 80 pipes with TIG all the way when they're regular old carbon steel because they think there's better quality there. When in reality, I could take that same process knowledge that I might have about other processes and throw me a TIG root in it and fill it out and cap it with flux core and be done with it in 20 minutes.
Or use STT or the MD or the Miller Pipe Works and do it in half of that.
Or just learn how to use your regular CV power supply that puts in a great root in regular old short circuit mode. It's been going on for years. So it's definitely a balance of cost benefit. And like I said, applying it to the education level can be different. It kind of depends on what your industry needs right here. Again, with mine, we're big into manufacturing here. I worked for community college when I first moved up here and mentioned teaching people how to weld pipe. And that was not, you don't want that, because what's going to happen is now all of a sudden your labor pool learns how to weld pipe, make good money as a welder. Who's going to fill up those $15 an hour manufacturing jobs? So it's again, you got to balance, in my opinion, you got to balance the, what you're teaching with what's in your area, what's going to put people to work, but also what's going to help those students out that are motivated to keep on trucking and getting higher and higher. My biggest money, and I mentioned this in one of the other meetings, the biggest money that I've made as a welder, they didn't care what was between my ears. They wanted to know if I could reach in this boiler, look through the root gap, and put a root pass in a tube and have it pass X-ray. They didn't care whether I was a sense welder. They didn't care if I knew all the parts of a welding symbol. Now, that stuff's come in handy. Don't get me wrong. It's all good stuff. But the big money in welding has oftentimes, unless you become a fabricator or an inspector, big money in welding can sometimes be just that ability to set up a machine, operate it, and make it make fire. Amen.
Appreciate the invitation, Calvin. I'd love to get up there and check it out.
I'll send you my email and contact if you'd like to reach out to me.
Okay.
Well, if that's kind of all the questions, we had some, see here, so let me take control back over here.
Gerald, I've got to jump off and go to a division meeting. I just want to say that if any of you have the opportunity to have Mr. Jeffers come to your class and talk to your students, you will not be disappointed. He stopped by Chattanooga State one time and talked to mine, and really, really motivational. And he mentioned in his address there one time of welding aluminum together. And as soon as we walked out of class and he left, everybody said, "Can you weld aluminum?" So I had to go and weld aluminum foil together. So, anyway, I've got a division meeting, but I've enjoyed this, and I'll be back next time you have one. Thanks.
Bobby, appreciate the comment. At one point, someone said they welded a beer can together, and I said, "Well, I can probably weld tinfoil." So I took a piece of rental wrap and made a T-joint out of it, manual TIG.
Yep.
Cyber TIG, Hobart machine, and dialed it down to 3 amps. Used a very long, thin taper so the end of the tungsten would get hot and emit the electrons a lot better.
I run mine on 2 amps, and that's thanks, Mr. Jeffers. Now I have to weld aluminum every semester, aluminum foil every semester.
You guys ain't doing it right, okay? Anybody can run it on 2 amps. What I do is I take a large diameter tungsten, I put it on about 40 or 50 amps, put it on reverse polarity with the electrode positive, take the aluminum and sandwich it together between 2 pieces of steel and run over it like you're not even paying attention to it, and it welds together perfectly. It only takes about 2 seconds to do it because you go over it so quick, but the reverse polarity cleans it up nice. So I can handle more amperage than you, so that means I'm a better welder.
We all have our thing.
That's right. Well, all right. Well, we'll go ahead and move on. I appreciate everybody that's hung out. We've been here for a little bit over an hour now. A few people are dropping off. One of the things I normally like to go over is the topics from that the form that I asked you to fill out. When I checked it before the meeting, I didn't really have any comments on there. Let me look real quick. Show my nasty desktop.
Hey, Gerald, I'm going to hop off. I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, Michael, I sure do appreciate your time, and I'll probably be in touch with you. I'm going to do some numbers and find some creative way to get some electronic versions for sure.
Thanks, Michael. That was a good presentation.
Thank you. Thank you all. Larry, thank you for hopping on too with us. I appreciate that.
All right, Michael, give me a call.
Okay, definitely will. Thank you.
All right.
Bye.
Y'all still there?
I'm still here.
I'm not sharing here. I'm got the wrong board up. So I'll just go through this form real quick, see if anybody's filled it in before they came in here, and we'll just see what kind of questions are on it.
One of the things I forgot to mention is whether or not you use my book, I'm certainly more than willing to jump in and give you a hand. I appreciate if you use the book, but I'm more interested in welding education than I am selling books.
Yeah, like I said, I'm going to be bothering you again, Larry, because like I said, I could probably talk with you for a while, but you just got to know when to tell me to shut up. So I've got the questionnaire. Go ahead.
Not a problem, and I enjoy visiting with people and instructors. I had a student whose welding instructor was given the job. He had done some welding as a kid, came back from Mideast, injured, and the school board wanted to give him a job, and they made him the welding teacher. The student wanted to know how to TIG weld, and the student would send me pictures of his TIG welds, and I would tell him up and down, etc. He graduated. He got a job in a motorcycle repair shop, TIG welding, and sent me an invitation to his wedding after graduation. So I'm willing to chip in.
There you go. Calvin, I know you had some, I didn't know whether you had some folks join in from Hobart, but I'd like to schedule y'all, if, like I said, if y'all can come in and talk, I appreciate you.
Yeah, he, Chip Prince, which is our technical director over all of our CWI and any liquid pen mag particle classes, any non-NDT classes that we offer. He was on the call, but he jumped off, so I don't know where he went, but
well, it's kind of winding down now anyway, so.
Yeah.
But it'd be good. It'd be good to get some more, get together again for sure. Hopefully, I won't be as confused about when the meeting times are.
Yeah, I'll ask him for next week if he wants to join in and maybe talk about CWI. And I know we were talking about that last week. So if he wants to jump in and kind of give a tutorial of the class and how they can go about doing it if they're interested in coming to school.
Yeah. All right, we'll go ahead and just look at this real quick. And this was just kind of the majority of people that are here. And I don't know about now because some of you may have dropped off, had actually been to one of these meetings before. This was actually the lowest number that I'd had in a while, but that's all right. I think there's probably a lot of confusion about when. But not everybody had been to the WeldEd meetings. So WeldEd has got a Facebook group, and it's called WeldEd Resource Center. And I'll go ahead and post a link to their meeting that they're going to have tomorrow in the chat box. And I think anybody can go to it. Their Facebook group is where they post the Zoom meetings. I try to avoid actually posting. That's why it's so hard. I don't put the actual Zoom link in there because it can go astray. But this is the actual link in the chat. Oh, looks like it added all of the Facebook stuff to it. Sorry, hang on.
I was having trouble getting on.
Yeah.
I'm a Mac person. I had to swap search engines in order to log into the meeting.
Mac's got more than one search engine?
Well, I typically use Firefox.
I got you.
What'd you have to use, Larry?
I had to use the one that comes with a Mac.
Safari?
Safari.
Huh.
And if you go to the Cengage website, last week they were having problems. Either Firefox upgraded something, Mac upgraded something, or Cengage upgraded something, but I could get on the site. I couldn't download anything.
Huh.
But I went to Safari and was able to download it. But I've used it for years without a problem. But for some reason, a glitch showed up, and their tech people are working on it, try to work it out.
So it looks like here's two of the questions. One was how to integrate Cengage content and quizzes into Canvas. I don't know if the person that asked it is still here. Are you still here? Okay. We have Canvas here, and I don't have, the Canvas does not have the option to import LTI or SCORM objects, either one, but I can get that. But if you have Canvas, you may have to talk to your administrator about doing it. The single sign-on, I think, will work across the board. And that's one way to do it. But we have Canvas. I don't use it. I use Moodle, and it's not a problem with Moodle for doing any of those things. Next question was pre-made welding or blueprint quizzes that grade themselves. I wish I would have seen that before I got done with the presentation, but it may have been something that he could have shown. But I did notice where he brought up a drawing or something like that. But one of the things that you can do is actually make up your own exercises, which we're going to talk about here in a little bit if anybody's interested. But one of the things that I could do, let's just say I wanted to have a blueprint quiz, is I can do what's called a hotspot quiz. So I could put specific hotspots on a JPEG drawing and ask questions about that and have them click that area. Click where the welding symbol that shows a single V groove on the other side is. And, have them click the joint and have them click the symbol, whatever it must be. And that's one way I can do some things with that. Or I could also make a set of images up that has the orthographic projection and then put up 3 different 3D models or isometric views of that same thing and have them pick the one that matches. So those things are all doable, whether they're already done in a learning management system. I don't know. Do you know if there's anything like that in your book, Larry?
Well, as a matter of fact, the student lab manual for the 9th edition, the quizzes, and there are multiple quizzes for each chapter, have been converted into matching so that they can be computer graded. Yeah. And in addition to the narrative, I have a large number of graphics where we've taken the call outs off the graphic and asked the student to identify the tungsten, the handle, the machine, the flow meter, etc. Depending on how complex the chapter is, how complex those questions are. And we have a large number of those. And we did it so that it makes it easier for faculty to have them machine graded.
Yeah. All right. Well, hopefully that helped. You know, the person's probably not here that filled out the response. If I do send out one of these meetings again, if you've got the time, please fill out any questions you got ahead of time. That way we kind of know. So here's another one. Same thing again. Looks like the Cengage content. Is the person from Sweden still here? Got 13 people left. Yeah, I can't tell by names. I wouldn't know what a Swedish name looks like, to be honest with you. But anyway, this forum gives us something else to cover. You know, we've already had over an hour in the meeting, so, you know, I don't expect anybody to hang out, but that's kind of the items that were there. Anybody got anything they want to share or talk about what they're having a hard time with that I can maybe put you in contact with someone who will help? We've had quite a few people on these meetings over the last few weeks, and some really tremendous people sharing their information. I don't know if Jared is still here. You still here, Jared? No. But anyway, there's quite a few people that had some really good information to share. I've got the videos recorded. I haven't found a good place to upload them besides the OneDrive for the school, and they don't like that because they're like 1.5 gig files. But anyway, if you've got something that can help with, bring it up. Maybe there's somebody in this group of 13, 12 that may be able to help. Anybody? All right. So here's some thoughts that I kind of went over before. You know, creating useful theory content has been my problem. I don't think I want to teach people about welding theory by giving them an assignment. Here, read this and come back to me and tell me what you know, kind of stuff. There's more to it. If we could do that with even the Cengage stuff, we could do that and just turn them loose on it. Do they even need us? Okay, maybe they don't. I mean, I know that I learned a lot of stuff out of a book by myself, but I was also pretty interested in it. I think us as teachers, we can help motivate them. One of the nice things that I liked about what Cengage had to present earlier, and I don't know if anybody saw my picture grinning, was the fact that I could put my own comments in their online book. Okay, I could add my take to it. I could put links to some other information for them. To me, that's a very, very powerful way where we can still have involvement as an educator with what our students are learning. If we just turn them loose and they don't need us, do we even have, you know, I don't even know if I've got any value besides out there in the shop. I got some value in the shop, but even that can be limited if I do all my welding teaching by looking at their welds and not going out there and playing with fire with them.
Well, talking about modifying things, all the PowerPoints are not locked, and they have every illustration in each chapter, all the A heads and B heads reflected in it, which makes the PowerPoints very lengthy. But it's easier for you as instructors to take things out than it is to put things in. In addition to that, there's a library of all of the illustrations from the book. So if you want to pull an illustration out and put it into a quiz or put it up, you know, the board or whatever, they're individual. You don't have to go to the textbook and copy it out. Yeah. You can go to the image library, download it, and use it. I don't lock things like that because I know as an instructor, I didn't even follow my own book the same way every time. Yeah. Different classes have their own personality, and that personality is how they are going to learn. And sometimes you have a class, it seems like everybody in the class, you say something one time and they got it. Yeah. And then you have other classes where you get a lot of just dead stares. And so changing the pace and changing the material, I have to do with my own material, and I know the instructors have to also. And that's what, you know, it is why it's why it is how it is.
Yeah, well, I like it like that. I've gotten, like I said, I've got to come up with some way to find the money to do them, because I've decided this is, you know, we've looked at quite a few different presenters as far as their materials over the past few weeks, and all of them had some good stuff that really got me excited. But And unfortunately, this one probably cost the most, but it's the one that's got me most excited. If I got to build barbecue grills over the summer, I'm going to build some barbecue grills. Barbecue grills and nuclear power plants. As long as I'm welding, I don't care. Other thing is like in learning by yourself, getting students to interact with each other online. I've got a Moodle website that I set up. I couldn't use our Canvas setup very well, but I don't know about anybody else's experience. But as far as them talking with each other on forums that they're closed, I didn't get much luck out of it. But I've got 42 students out of my 62 that have actually logged in and participated somewhat, but not much peer participation. And that's kind of where I'm at today. No big deal. We'll go forward, but half of them had logged in the learner management system and actually done something. And well, 58% of them logged in altogether, but it is known here in our area that nobody's grade's going down. And they've known that for a week or so. Actually, some of them known it longer and some of them are still logged in, which kind of keeps me grinning. That's kind of where I'm at. Anybody else want to share kind of what they've done with their high school, with their students in general? How's it going with the online learning? Okay.
Hello?
Yeah.
Hey, my name is James Blocker. I teach at a high school. Can you guys hear me good?
Yep.
Okay. The Cengage, we've been working with it for the past, it's been out for a good 4 weeks. We had it, but I've been working with it for about 2 weeks now. I'm still new to it, but it seemed like a good program, and I'm still new to computers, so I'm just going to leave it at that as far as the computers. Me personally, I like teaching the kids hands-on, and I like them to stay focused with that, but you know, the way things are now, it seemed like we kind of got to get a little bit used to it, or me personally get used to the computers. So with this Cengage program, it seemed pretty good. I got 52 students, and I got like about 16 of them signed up so far. I basically started probably last Thursday with my students. So it's a slow process getting them to sign on. So that's my issue right now. We working with the Cengage and also the Google Classroom. So I'm trying to incorporate all my students right over to the Cengage.
What state are you from, James?
Pennsylvania. So that's what the welding programs down here in Philly doing, the Cengage. So like I said, I'm really still new to this program, but I mean, I like it for what it is, you know, as far as like getting the students information out there and like going through the book. But you know, it's still a new process. It's just hard for them getting signed up and, you know, doing the work.
Yeah, as welding instructors, I think there's a wide variation in our ability itself just to use technology. So that can be compounded, of course, when we have students that are coming in and they may have some difficulties with it. So having an IT department or access to them inside can be pretty good. But it looked like some of the Cengage stuff looked like it could be pretty easy. But again, you got to experiment at first before you launch it out there for sure. I had quite a bit of problems, and I'm really, I'm pretty computer literate. You know, the Moodle websites are all my own, all that kind of stuff. I had a hard time getting some folks signed up and doing their thing. I had to make quite a few videos of click here, do this, click here, do that, and that kind of stuff to, some of them logged in and automatically thought, well, nothing popped up and told me what to do. They never went to the course and clicked on the first section for Introduction to Metals. They just thought they were done because I didn't send them a message telling them they had an assignment. I told them to just log in and go look at the class. So there's definitely some margin for that.
Yeah, it just seemed like with this program, they gave us a Zoom conference call with it and walked us through it. But when you actually sit there and start working with it, then you'd be like, man, it's a lot to do, or, a lot to take in. So if it's a lot for us to take in at some point, sometimes the students get a little overwhelmed. The only good thing is, you can present it, like on Google Classroom and kind of walk them through it. So a lot of my students, that's what I'm doing with them now. I believe once we get back in the classroom, it'll definitely help, as far as classroom learning. So that's what I'm looking at it. It's something that'll help once we get back into the shop and the classroom.
So I'm not in high school affiliate. I work with the post-secondary, but I know I come and visit most of you, or have visited most of you. If I can ask, what are your school districts saying, and what's the outlook for August or September coming back?
We had a meeting a little bit earlier today, and they talking about, like, it's different things, nothing then written in concrete yet. Maybe having smaller class sizes, having seniors come in from like 9 to 12, and then, juniors coming in at a different time. They looking at all kind of ways. I think they have so many ideals, they don't know which one to go with. And sometimes they don't even, not that they're saying they don't take shops in consideration, but it's just like, that work good for academic teacher doesn't work good for us. So sometimes we gotta, throw our ideals out there.
What are they saying in Tennessee, Gerald?
Well, we talked about it today. We had a staff meeting, and nobody's even decided what's going to be done for the fall. But there's a distinct possibility that they'll go. They call it an A/B schedule, where we're just having a certain percentage of students at their academics classes, which is going to throw them into not as much time during the week. So I feel pretty confident that if there's going to be any time cut, it's going to be us. And I want to talk to I'd love to have a hold of all the Tennessee Department of Education related with CTE people that I could, and tell them don't do that. Like then when I was in 10th grade making twice the minimum wage from what I learned in high school. Let's not cut this out. We can teach kids entry level or better welding skills here in high school. Let's not throw that away. You can't get entry level skills in advanced physics in high school.
Hey, Gerald, is that CTE conference going on virtually this summer in Tennessee?
It is. Matter of fact, yeah, I was going to actually try to do a presentation there for the welder testing and certification. But I had talked with, I can't remember his name now, but yeah, I think it's going to all be online. It was going to be face to face, and I think it's going to all be online. But I'm hoping we'll have some breakout rooms and discussions for sure.
Is that the state ACTE or is that the national ACTE?
That's the state.
Because I know the national one's in Nashville this year.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it is. Yes. So it'd be great to do them both. But hey, I'm going to try to. They'd asked for people to do presentations. I was going to do one for welding instructors on how to test and certify welders and that kind of stuff. But,
yeah, they contacted me about doing one for the national one.
Did they?
What about Indiana, Brad and Kurt?
Anybody else?
We really don't know yet.
I'm Illinois.
A quick comment. Welding is different than automotive and lots of others. And in automotive, you can have some distance between you and the student. In welding, you've got to get the student's hand at some point and work with them to make that weld. Our welding booths are not big enough to have any space at all between you and the student. Many schools, the students use common helmets, swapping from one to the other. How are we going to sanitize those? And gloves.
Yeah.
We have, completely different than, drafting instructor can stand back and point with a laser and say, put a line here. An auto mechanic can say, you, on the starter, tighten that top bolt up on the starter. But in welding, we are unique in our skill training and requirements.
Yeah.
And that's going to be a challenge. And there's no way around it.
Yeah, we've actually taken all of, well, we have a morning and afternoon shift. We've actually taken some of our morning shift because we have a lot more in the morning shift than we do in the afternoon, and taken some of the morning ones and putting the afternoon. Out of our 345 booths, we're actually doing every other booth. So we have a student every other booth. So that's why we had to expand to the afternoon and take some of our morning shift guys to the afternoon to facilitate the 6 feet rule.
But you guys are still taking enrollments and stuff like that now. Has it
Yeah,
back up?
classes actually start back up Monday.
Without getting crazy, there's only a few people here. What's the cost for a student to come up there? Let's just say.
For the structural program, it's 11.4,
Okay.
and for the 10-month program, which is the pipe program, is 19 even.
Okay.
And we've also added, just within the last year, we've added electives now. We now have an aerospace elective. We have a stainless 2-inch pipe elective. Students can now go into the technical side and take the non-destructive testing class I was mentioning. They can take the liquid pin and mag particle. We have a visual and an arc inspection class they can take, and the electives. And then the original ones, which I don't know, Brad, if you took this, the pipe layout and the downhill that we have.
I didn't take either one of those.
But those are electives. There are a couple other electives that they're about to come out with. There's a fabricating class that they're coming out with, and I'm trying to push for an engine-driven welding class, but I'm not sure if that's going to happen yet. You're muted there.
You asked about Indiana. We talked about smaller class sizes, but today I got a text from my director and they're trying to push another kid in my class, which would make my class bigger. So I don't know if we're sticking to that or not, but our director said that we need to have a plan A, a plan B, or plan C in case we don't go back in August. So that's kind of why I jumped on today to try to find out more about virtual welding, I guess. So.
Yeah, that's, the stuff that we've been talking about here and in the other meetings about the online learning. To me, it's going to be, I want to get my ducks in a row so I can say I'm ready for that, because I still got to be with the students, but I can at least give them something that's positive and useful in between those classes and still get my value of 5 contact hours or 10 contact hours a week out of it. But if I don't have my stuff together by then it's going to be, just chaos like it was this spring. So I'm hoping to do something much, much better, but, because we don't know what we're going to do. I mean, me personally, I can have up to 25 students. I've got 11 booths. I don't want 25 students. Okay. But if I just have 5 or 6 students, the poor old things are going to be all tore up from me bugging them all the time, because that's not going to be very many. I'll be in the booth with them, but it's going to be interesting. But I'm afraid CTE is going to be put on the back burner because of just because of the other shortcuts or other problems they're going to have in the other classes, and that's kind of scares me a little bit. Which I'm doing my interview tomorrow. I don't actually have the job yet, so it may not even be my problem. I'm interim till tomorrow.
And one of the real issues that I think schools face, and we get nailed with it, is they're reimbursed by the feds in the state on contact hours. And if you cut your class down to 11 from 25, you're not producing a whole lot of money for the school. And as much as we disagree and argue with them over it, it's money. It's dollars and cents. And if you're running a program like we are in welding, it's a loss leader. And it's hard sometimes to, our materials are expensive, and we make a lot of scrap. take steel at stake prices and turn it into
Yeah.
much
Buy it
less.
at 40 cents a pound and sell it at 4 cents a pound.
Yep.
What a deal.
One thing to look into, we had a teachers conference last summer. We have one every year, but this one got canceled this year. But we had an AWS member come in from Miami, and they now have a grant program that you can actually apply for on their website.
Yep.
And you can apply through schools. I know Jody, I believe you're out in Illinois. I know you won the Harbor Freight one too.
I did both. I won both of them.
Oh, you did? Okay.
I did.
Woohoo!
I got
Congratulations.
one. Thank you. One 2 years ago, and then Harbor Freight this year. So.
Yeah, isn't that the workforce grant or something that AWS has? I should know. I'm a section chairman, but I get confused about all of them. That's the $25,000 grant you're talking about?
Yes.
Yeah.
Actually, I think it was more. You could ask for up to, what was it, 50,000 or something like that, and then they would base what they gave you off of what they determined, they felt like they could provide.
We had AWS came on here and spoke recently, so I should have remembered all of their stuff. But what was it called?
My biggest thing is with everything, if we don't go back into the lab next year and we're online, it's hard enough to get my students to look at a book and do what they're supposed to do in the classroom. If it's not engaging, if it's just PowerPoints and a couple of like matching games and they're not going to be engaged.
Yeah.
They're not going to do the work, especially when you're not there saying you're not leaving the classroom until you get it done. There's no incentive, there's no motivation, there's no anything. If it's not engaging,
One of the things somebody mentioned in the past that I'm hoping I can figure out a way to implement is completing their online stuff, flipping the classroom where they're doing that, the majority of it at home. I know that it's more homework, but shop time is pretty valuable, and earning their shop time based on what they do. So if they come in, so what I'm trying to do, I'm trying to get 2 more cameras installed in my shop. And if I have 6 students that did all of their online activities last night, when they get here, they're going to have to stay for the short discussion, but they don't have to stay and watch me go over the PowerPoint face to face. They go out there in the shop and they go to work. So that's something I'm trying to figure out a way I can get me a couple more cameras, like I said, because I do have to supervise them in the shop. I'd like to have cameras in every booth out there that I could just have, running all the time. But that's one.
What you're saying is more like a gift for them because they did all their stuff online.
Yeah. If you want to go out, out in the shop, when you clock in the shop, have your stuff done. And you're going to have to come in and just ask me questions about something you maybe didn't understand or go through the discussion part of it. But the real presentation, the same thing that I presented online before, at least the same content, but maybe not the same format, you don't have to sit through it unless watch me click through some slides and ask you questions and stuff like that.
I would have so done that when I was in high school.
Oh yeah. Yeah. If I could have avoided that or back in the day when we would get in trouble and we'd all have to stay in the shop or stay in the classroom, if I could be the good student that did my stuff and go down there and work in the shop by myself and have access to all the goodies, shoot, I'd be in it then.
But what if we don't have shop time? Like, what if,
that's,
you know what I'm saying?
And that's where I think we're going to have to talk to the CTE directors and the departments of education, because if they think this isn't a necessary trade, they're in a bad way. I mean, that's just all there is to it. We can train people to go to work out of high school. There's not very many academic subjects that you can teach somebody in high school that's going to put them to work when they walk out the door related to that subject.
There are a lot of college programs. You come out with a bachelor's degree in psychology, sociology, history. They are degrees or Mideast studies or some of the other things that campuses around the country offer. There's no degree. Here in Texas, I worked with the governor's office for 12 years on workforce investment. And, that's one of the things that we were pushing was that there were degrees that students coming out owing, $200,000, and they're a librarian. The best they could make in Texas as a librarian is $39,000 to start with.
Yeah.
I have a 4-year degree myself in political science. Never used it. I was a mechanic while I was in college, and I was doing the automotive route, and then I got a call from Hobart, and I've been with Hobart for almost 7 years, and about to get my CWI.
Cool.
And
you been welded, Calvin?
Oh yeah, they put me through the whole program.
Cool.
I didn't pay a dime. I came in and worked. I know I first came up to Brad's area up in northern Indiana, and I cover over in Kurt's area, and I've been up to his school. I've been out to Jody's school in Illinois, and I never welded a day in my life, and they put me through the program, and I love it. And I mean, I have a 4-year degree, and I've never used my degree.
And I would have students that would come in class. I had a student come in, had his PhD in psychology, and he said that there was just no way to break into that area. You had to do such a long internship after you got your degree. And he said it just wasn't practical.
I feel bad for some of the Hobart engineers that have gone through Ferris State or Ohio State's welding engineering program, and they're over Hobart Brothers making the filler rods over next to the school. And I mean, I'm probably sure they make a good, decent amount, but I don't think Hobart Brothers pays much.
Yeah.
And for how much they went to school for.
Right. When I was working at the governor's office, one of the things that I tried to get instigated, and we're still looking into it as a state, is that have the students that come out of public education, higher education, whether it's 2-year or 4-year school, sign a document that would allow us to look at their salary, their income tax, the first year out and the third year out.
Yeah.
And if they're not making more money the third year out, then we start defunding those programs. Many of them are entrenched college professors. If you've got a degree in a trade area, or you have a degree in chemistry or biology, you can leave the college, go make money, and come back to the college. If you got a degree in political science, you have a degree in political science. I ask if you want, fries with that burger. And so what we're looking at is defunding some of those programs. The students can still take the course, but they're not going to be funded from the state at the same level.
And another thing, Larry, I would look into is because with our accreditation at Hobart, we cannot, because I also work on the job placement side of it too at the school, and I have to help the students find jobs. I can't place somebody in a job working at a collision shop. Yeah, they might be welding, but I can't place them because it's in the collision industry. It's in the automotive industry.
Right. Clusters.
So that would be one thing in the state of Texas I would look into, making sure that if they do say their salary, they increase their salary, but are they working in that field that they got the degree in too? That'd be a point to bring up. Maybe.
Yeah, there's a lot of caveats that we've been working on that. I appreciate your comments on it.
Yeah.
Well, that's, we could go on for a while. And again, we've still got 10 people here. Anybody else got anything they want to talk about real quick? Or not even real quick? I ain't no hurry. I don't even have a job.
So one of the things that I've been trying to figure out is, because I'm at a high school, I can talk to the state, and my high school still may not let the kids back in at the beginning of the year. So, I mean, regardless, it's not going to matter. I'm going to have to do something online. But I've been thinking about buying some just small suitcase welders that maybe students who have garages that they could actually weld in, or that they could move them around so we could get some welding going while they're at home. Has anybody had any thoughts on how they might get some actual welding done while they're, yeah.
I actually blend out I've got a couple weld machines, but my older, more wore out one, I've loaned out to a student. I did a little demonstration video a few weeks back about TIG welding without TIG welding. I showed that you could put ballpoint pen cartridges in the TIG rig if it's got 1/8 collet. And and presented, hey, if any of my students want a TIG torch to practice with, I'll hook you up. CK Worldwide, I just opened up the box. They sent me 13 demo torches of different types. So that's pretty cool. You know, they're not working torches, but you know, I put that machine out. But what I envision in the future, if we can't do this, is finding some way to get a centralized location. And I'm thinking about reaching out to business and industry or somewhere like that where kids could maybe get some socially distanced welding time in an industry, because we can't cluster up here as easily. I'm just hoping that doesn't happen, to be honest with you.
Yeah, to answer your question about welding machines, I talked with a group of investors. They contacted me and I provided them information. I can't be specific on who they are, but what we looked at was flux core machines. You can buy them off the shelf from any of the Lowe's, Home Depot, Harbor Freight for $200 or so. You can buy them wholesale less than that. And setting that at 110 power supply.
Sorry.
And setting that up for students along with training material that would come with it and some on-screen time to look at the weld and talk about what's going on. They were also looking at the possibility, cameras are real small today, and put a camera in the corner of the lens so that the student could live feed back to the instructor. And so you're not standing there looking at them weld, but what you're doing is watching them through the lens and telling them, you know, faster, slower, you know, more, you know, a little more stick out, a little less, watch the tracking, got some undercut, as a way of getting some hands-on. Their concern, my concern is you can go this far and that's it. You know, you can only go so far. You have one process, and unless you have something set up for the student, you're stuck with one position. So I don't know where they are in that process, trying to put together a learning package for marketing.
Yeah.
But that was something that I had some dealings with.
You know, for beginners,
months ago.
For beginners, you know, they can build the muscle dexterity without an arc. You know, the arc is not there. And I, like I said, I've talked about it before, but the first thing my first semester students ever do is TIG weld aluminum. That's their very first thing that they do. I give them a torch. Now this is a rubber torch that CK sent me. It's got a USB drive in it, but he sent me 24 of these. Well, believe it or not, even though this is not the same size as a regular TIG torch, I could drill that out, put a ballpoint pin in it, and let them practice that. And that's actually what I do. You know, well, I've had up to 22 students at one time. And we push the wire around on the table or push a washer around on the table, and we go out there and strike an arc. And they all make a decent weld. They all run a 2-inch long bead. Of course, I'm running the foot pedal and I'm talking to them. But there are skills that we can build, in my opinion, without actually doing it. Of course, like I said, I really got to see the fire sooner or later. But with beginners, I think there's a lot of opportunities for building that initial muscle memory that connects my brain to this piece of tungsten or whatever it is right here. Because me personally, I don't have to think what I'm going to do if I'm going to touch myself right here, because this connection's been made in my head. I put that TIG rig handle in there. I know exactly where it's going to go every time. But someone that's new to it, they're still making that connection. Well, they can build that connection without fire. You know, and luckily with TIG, for instance, they really kind of already got the connection because it's the same muscles they use for writing. So everybody's really a TIG welder. My wife won't touch the fire, but I'm pretty sure that she could TIG weld the first time if she'd spend 20 minutes with me and we'd fire it up and she'd be ready to go. But I think there's some options out there for doing it without the fire. The fire part of it runs us into some other situations if we're doing it as a school, because that's kind of what I was told is what if they catch their house on fire, catch their barn on fire? So, I was pretty much had to talk to the parents of the students I had. I don't mind letting them borrow my machine, but this is completely outside of the school operation. And, if you could have we're talking about the cameras, I've always envisioned that before as welder certification type booth where you've got cameras mounted and you record every guy's test. You got cameras mounted that they can bring them down that are closer to it. I talked to someone in North Carolina. I can't remember what the company was 10 years ago about this. But it'd be nice to have that set up for, training kiosks, even if they were portable. What if you just got one of the 42-foot or 52-foot trailers set up with 6 or 7 booths in them and enough separation for people to go in there and work. And then, hey, you come down here at this time. We're going to park this one at a certain place, and you guys can come in and weld. You log in.
Actually, there was a project in Massachusetts called Project Model, Mobile Occupational Development Educational Laboratories, and they use large trailers set up for a variety of occupations.
Yeah.
And they took them around the state. One of the problems you have in some occupations, like small engine repair, if a school sets a program up, you'll saturate your market around your school in a year, and you don't need any more students. So schools could swap a unit for small engine repair and trade it for a unit in automotive tune-up, or trade it for a unit in office machine repair, or trade it with someone. And so that was a project that went on for a number of years, and I was involved in it as one of their coordinators.
Like I said,
I don't know what the other states are saying, but we were deemed essential at the school because we're providing people for industry trades.
Yeah.
So that's why we're able to bring the students back, because we went through the state of Ohio's health board, and they deemed us essential because we're, again, like I said, providing the jobs for trades in America. So I mean, it's something for you guys in Tennessee, Indiana, and Illinois to check into.
Yeah, I think with
Kevin, where are you at?
Ohio, up in Hobart.
With us being high school level, though, it could be very easy for everybody to look at it like, well, they can just go to community college. They can just go to the technical school. That way we don't have that risk with high school students. So it's got to be very delicately addressed, I think. And again, so my idea is my thought is I want to make my program where I can put students to work. I don't want to prep them for community college, and I'll get, I mean, I've actually lost out on a job opportunity once by saying that, because after I followed up about why I didn't get called back, that was a specific statement I made. And the director of the vocational or the community college was there in my interview. And I found out in a roundabout way that statement right there pretty much ended it for me.
Well, one of the problems with doing away with the high school program is that you have high school programs 5, 6, 8, 10 that feed into one community college. The community college couldn't handle that number. There are a lot of students that will leave high school with enough skills to go down and get a job at a trailer manufacturer. East Texas has got big techs, trailer manufacturer all over. And all they need is someone with minimal skills, willing to sit down and strike an arc and run a bead.
Yeah.
And the high school students are coming out and they're going into these jobs. And they're reasonable pay, they're well above minimum wage. But if you're looking at trying to replace the number of students that go through the high school programs through community college, that'll never happen.
Yeah.
The community college is never going to build that many spaces. It's just, they can't afford it. And then you have, like Hobart, you have Tulsa Welding School, and you got these other proprietary schools out there. Same thing, trying to get the numbers that you would get out of a high school program. Plus, there's so many students that'll leave high school, and they're going to wind up getting married, and they'll just have a low skill job for the rest of their lives.
We're actually nonprofit.
Okay. Yeah. Unfortunately, a lot of proprietary schools are nonprofit, and they weren't intended to be.
Yeah. Yeah, I've helped three nonprofits become ATFs. Oh, so it's kind of it's a tricky thing as far as how the money's handled. It doesn't mean we're all poor and broke. It just means we've spread our money out different than a business would. That's kind of, if I had the money, Lord, to make Gerald Austin a nonprofit, I'd be on it, because it opens up so many opportunities for me to get me some of that free money.
I'm a senior executive board member of a nonprofit. We operate a $1.5 million budget annually, and I'm secretary to the corporation and senior executive board member. So, yeah, I'm very familiar with how that works, and
it's all about accounting. Well, you look at AWS; they're not on here right now, but their CEO, he's doing all right. And a lot of other people along that line. Nothing wrong with that. It is what it is.
Gerald, can you put us up so we have a collage instead of just a couple people on the corner?
Oh, you should be able to. There's only 8 people here, but there should be an icon on your desktop.
I do.
Shows us all. And then let me see here if I can.
It should, if you go up to where the window screens are for whoever's talking at the top, there should be like a line, a bigger box, and then 2 boxes on top of each other. Then there's one that has like 9 boxes in it. Click on the 9 boxes and you'll see everybody's face.
Yeah, and then you can just drag that and make it bigger.
I did, and all the way through, I had 4 people. So my system was not handling anymore. Now I have 5.
Okay.
6.
Yeah, like I said, there's a couple folks that they don't have their camera on.
Right, I see that. I use Zoom with my Sunday school class and use it with my family. We're scattered across the country, and we get together on Zoom.
Yeah.
So that's what's so frustrating, that I couldn't get on Zoom through Firefox. I do that on a regular basis every Sunday.
I got an email from Zoom, as a matter of fact, this morning saying May the 9th they're changing their requirements for passwords and some other things and other security issues. But it looks like that their automatic link will still work, like the one that I put in there, but there won't be any meeting IDs that you can send out that don't have a password.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw that they're updating on the news that they're updating their security software.
And there are other platforms that have come online in the last month that rival Zoom.
Yeah, there's in the Moodle site, for instance, I've got direct access to one called Big Blue Button. I can set it up on my server, and it's just, it's completely internal. They've got to actually be logged into Moodle for it to work. All right, well, if anybody's interested, I can show them what this is right here. This is just one of the tools for creating some HTML5 content, but it's pretty long and involved. But if somebody's, there's only a few people here, but this is one of their tools for doing a drag and drop into a category. So here's a category here. Here's the different processes I put in here. And these will all show up as categories. And I just drag them in here. Of course, this is just something I threw together to give my students something that had my flair on it, that was over a video that I'd made for them, just talking about different stuff. But again, it goes together. The good thing about it is with that tool, I can make a standalone file that I can put on a USB drive and send it to them. Or I could make it a web page where they could go to it and see it online externally. Now, with those 2 methods, I don't get a grade back from them, other than if I put a grade screen on the end of it, or I have them do the check answers, it'll show what they've got. But unless I put them all in there, so it doesn't tie to my grade book and my LMS. But I can also export it as a SCORM object with just one different click of the button, and upload it right into my learning management system, and then have it talk to the grade book. So that's one of the many tools that are out there. There's too many of them to even talk about, but this one's free. Bad part about it is you've got to actually install it on a web server somewhere, but your school can do that. And there's a whole lot of different, types of exercises you can make besides just the drag and drop. You can do regular quiz questions. You can do an interactive video where the video pauses and then a question will pop up, that kind of stuff. But it's and it's older technology, but it will publish the things to other learning management systems without the SCORM works across the board. Again, with Canvas, it's kind of hard if you don't have that set up by your administrator. And there's many more of them, but this is one I've just got. The weldertraining.org website, I was able to install this on my website. It literally took 5 minutes. Okay, and that was through I've got a hosting plan I paid $20 a month for, and it was literally, clicking a few buttons here and there, and boom, it was on. So it's not rocket science for the most part. So you can add different categories, and you can add different objects within those categories. Trying to see if I had one that was. So here's one that's an example of just a text page that goes page by page. Click through it. I got some information there for it, and I could put audio on each one of those pages if I wanted to. And then here's one of the activities that gets graded. So I just pick the items out of there. I hit the check button. And then it records it to the log sheet. And I could also put feedback on there, but you can see they all turn green. So we know that they're good. But anyway, so that's one of the other things that's kind of nice about it. Well, I'm not logged into Moodle, but I can also put hyperlinks on the words that are in there. So my Moodle glossary would pop up because I've got tensile strength put in there in my glossary in Moodle. So it'd pop up and give them a deeper definition of a term, stuff like that. So or put an external link to another website, the Wikimedia for brittle fracture. Anyway, there's tons of, if you know somebody that's struggling with wanting to create their own content, I'm not an expert in it, but I can maybe help them out. I've used, in the last 3 months, I've used about 8 different tools, trying them out. And in the past 10 years, I've used 1 or 2. Bad part about those is they're paid for. They're not cheap.
Have we had anybody from Miller talk about Miller Open Books?
Yeah, any of y'all curious about Miller Open Book? It's if you haven't seen it, how many folks have got on here still?
I'm using it.
Okay. Anybody that hasn't used it at all, that's kind of
I put it out there. The kids ain't doing much with it.
I was gonna say, I started to make an account this year, and just right before we got sent home. Haven't gotten it quite finished up yet.
Would you want me to get a hold of somebody at Miller and see if they'll come
we
talk
did
about
one. We did one of our first meetings. We had Miller come on and do an open book presentation, but I always do it again. And one of these days I'll make a video kind of going through it. But if you haven't used it, the nice thing about it, in my opinion, is the content is very well made. The thing that I don't like about it, and this is just my opinion, is within this learning management system, there's no way for me to add anything that's my personal touch. Okay. This is just, so this would be the same as me saying, here, go read this book, and boom, they come back miraculously knowledgeable in all things welding. Did they need me? Which I still do that with them. I've got students that are interested in it, and I make it a side assignment. If you want some extra credit, you go do this, or if you're having trouble with this, you go do that. So there's some value in it, but I don't want that as my sole online learning management system, because I can't add anything to it. I can't even upload a video that says, hey, how y'all doing today? I hope y'all are doing good. Hope you're excited about as welding as I am. And
customizing material for me as an author is really important, and that's one of the reasons I leave things open. if there's only one opinion, there'd only be one book in the library, mine. There's just lots of opinions, and there's lots of ways of doing something.
You sound like Wikipedia
we've
for
all
the
heard
welding.
right way, wrong way, the boss's way. But you know, how do you teach someone to strike an arc?
Yes.
Your technique, my technique will differ, but the analogy I use is your preacher and my preacher talk out of the same book. But if I made my preacher preach like your preacher, he wouldn't be very effective, or vice versa.
Yeah.
And so the way we teach and the way we present material has to be customized because we're individuals. And how we approach it and how students approach it is unique. And so I'm all in favor of adding to, deleting from, and changing.
That's one of the things that, one of the things I'd envisioned years ago when I was a welding geek, wishing I was a welding teacher full time, was having a repository of information that people could use and share. And I think we've talked about in the past meetings, the skillscommons.org got some nice stuff. But a lot of that stuff they've got on there is copyrighted. But I'd like to have, like, the good thing about the Xerte thing that I've got right here, I can share that whole entire object where it can be edited by somebody else. Or they could I could give them an account on this website. They can log in and we can work on projects collaboratively. So there's so many, I put a post on the AWS forum. I don't know how many y'all are forum members. I don't know whether anybody followed up about it, but it was about sharing content. And, if anybody else is creating content, because I'm a shade tree mechanic at this stuff. Okay. It's all just because of my interest and not because I've been trained to create content, but I want to make my own. Not because there's anything wrong with anybody else's, but there's certain things that I don't agree with. There's certain things that I want to really, really stress. Let me see if I can find it here. Anybody creating their own content. So I posted this yesterday in the educators group on AWS forum, and one person responded, I think. Looks like I had 2 replies. So I think one of them was mine. But there's ways that we could collaborate with it. All I'm interested in is finding the best thing I can do to teach my students. Sometimes the best thing I can do is just get them interested, and then I could give them, they could just walk back there. I got a bookshelf sitting back there that if I got them interested enough, they'd be saying, can I have this book for a few days? And that's few and far between, I imagine, but that's what I was in high school. I was the one taking the welding instructor's book. Jefferson's Welding Encyclopedia was the most exciting thing I had ever seen as a teenager, besides a couple of things that I had trouble with for most of my life. But as far as welding went, that thing was incredible. I would just flip through it all the time. The AWS welding handbooks, I'd borrow them. He had 7th edition. I'd just get them and look through them. There was so much cool stuff in there. But if we can get some students interested, to me, that's where our value comes in. Is helping.
All of that is great, but you can't replace ARC on time.
Oh, no. I mean, that's part of that. That's even where the student going to watch a YouTube video is useless compared to me going out there and grabbing their hands and letting them feel every time that 7018 touches the edge of that T-joint, and me telling them, you've got to keep the arc this close or it's going to undercut. You just can't do it.
When I talk to a class, and the gentleman from Tennessee and Chattanooga mentioned it, one of the things I say is, if you were told before you signed up for welding that there's going to be a piece of red hot metal land in your elbow, your ear, go down your shirt, and you're not going to break the arc, how many of you would have said I was crazy? Now, how many has had that happen today?
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, and there's no, you can do anything in the world about talking about and talking and showing and demonstrating and everything, but until that student has that piece of metal, that hot piece of metal, and I come home from class and I'll double tap the salt shaker on the table before I pick it up. Just make sure that it's not hot.
Yeah.
You just get used to it, and as a welder, you get used to it. But the only way the student gets used to it He's reaching over, picking up that piece of metal that was glowing 2 seconds ago, and putting it down real quick because it didn't look at it that badly.
A real quick story on that. When I was in high school, we only had 2 TIG machines. I welded 2 pieces or 3 pieces of aluminum 1-inch Schedule 80 pipe together, and there was only 1 or 2 of us that got to TIG weld aluminum. Well, I got done with it, and there was another student there watching me, and he didn't see that it was glowing red, and he reached down and grabbed that piece of aluminum. I was actually building it. It made it into a dog-looking shape, but anyway, he grabbed that thing, and it split his hand open like a baked potato right where his seam was, that quick. And he looked at it. He said, that didn't even hurt.
Yeah.
3 days later, it was hurting, but it split it open.
Yeah. So when I went to high school, we only had stick welding.
Y'all just got electricity then and stuff, didn't you?
That's right. Just barely had light bulbs and gas welding.
You had the first crowbar machine.
My first experience with wire welding, both feet, it was a constant current machine, not a constant potential, and you control the wire feed and the current with your feet.
Oh, wow.
All right. And you had wire, and the wire came out, I swear it was 1/8 of an inch. It wasn't quite that big, but you carried a molten weld pool, and you started on a scrap plate, pop, 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 and then you'd move over to your weld joint.
Oh, that's cool. That'd be kind of neat to do that, though. That'd give you some, if you could get everything working, that'd give you some versatility. If I could control my wire feed speed and my voltage at the drop of a hat. Of course, doing it with your feet might be a little funky, but.
Oh, it was.
Huh. All right. Well, I've probably run on for long enough. Anybody want to see anything, do anything? Anybody got any questions? And we can sit here and talk. I can sit here and talk for a while. So.
If I didn't want people to call me, I wouldn't give them my phone number.
Yeah. Yeah. When I send I'm hoping I'll actually get this video uploaded and the chat post and all that kind of stuff up there and some follow up with it. But we'll do another one next week. And again, we can sit here and talk for quite a while. How many folks is here now?
So I was late coming on. Did you guys exchange that information at the beginning, or?
Some of it is in the chat box. If you, when you filled out the registration form, if you filled out the Eventbrite one, there was a question about whether you wanted your email address shared or not. Mm-hmm. People that mark no, I won't be sending them out, but I will send out a video or an email with everybody's email address that did not mark no, and it'll be in the regular CC block, so you'll be able to see it.
And my email address is just like my name. It's larry@jeffus.org.
Okay. But there should be some information in the chat the chat box of different things that maybe some folks have talked about. I don't know how many. You can actually chat, to each other without me seeing what's even on there.
Yeah, I don't know how to do the private, but go ahead.
Yeah, you just hit that drop. There's like a drop down list there that's got everybody's name in it that's here.
Oh.
And you can do it like
click
that.
on the
chat
chat box there, and then click who you want to send a message to, and you click the name. And
Jody, send me an email, and I'll send you all my contact stuff.
Oh, well, I was just putting mine in because I don't care if you guys all have it. So there you
go. The meetings, like I said, and I never. Sometimes I don't get around to it. I'll typically post them on that weldinginstructors.org website, and they'll go to the top. And it'll say how to register. Click on the Eventbrite, that kind of stuff. I don't post the Zoom meeting just because I don't want to monitor everybody clicking it and coming in here within the public. Whereas the one with Welded, they put it on their Facebook site, and their Facebook site is closed, so it's not out there in the general public. But if you want to go check theirs out tomorrow, I think I posted it earlier. I thought, didn't I?
I believe you did, or
yeah,
I got it from somewhere.
Yeah, if you scroll up, that's going to be theirs tomorrow at 1 p.m. Those guys do a pretty good job, a little bit more structured than I am, and they probably don't run their mouth as much as I do. And I think they've got some stuff on some drawings, doing some fab work or something like that tomorrow. And then I'll send out an email to everybody that was at this meeting and announce when the one is next week. But it'll be next Wednesday sometime. Hopefully, I'll have it straight in my mind before I send it out. I'm waiting for for the confirmation from when our next staff meeting is before I do anything. But if y'all don't mind, there was a feedback form. You know, again, I meant to mention it also, but I'm gonna put a link in it. If you've got anything that you can tell me to do these better, I'm all for it. You know, I'm just kind of did this off the seat of my pants. But 16 people have responded. I've got over 120 email addresses. Okay.
I have a large number of email addresses from faculty members that I have had contact with, to stop by their programs, etc. If you're not objective, I could object to it. I can send them your contact information. And tell them to check it
Do
out.
that if they're interested in attending one of the meetings would be great. You know, I'd love for my problem to be Zoom can't handle more than 100 people. You know, I'd love for that to be the issue. But again, like I said, I've had, well over 100 and some folks. Only 16 folks have give me any feedback on it. I like the negative feedback. Oh.
When you send out the Zoom, Gerald, I usually send it all to the states I cover. So Indiana, Illinois, Tennessee, Kentucky, Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, West Virginia, Maryland, Virginia. I've sent them out to all those states. So
yeah. But if you guys get a chance, just any again, I'm looking more for negative comments than I am. Oh, that you did a great job kind of stuff. I mean, I'm just doing what I do. I'm gonna keep on doing it until there's only 2 people that'll put up with me. It doesn't bother me now. If I can pick the brains of some other welding instructors for an hour at a time, I'm all for that, because it's.
When I go into a welding program, I introduce myself as retired welding teacher from Texas. My name's Larry.
Yeah.
And because I want honest feedback, and I have gotten some great feedback that I wouldn't have gotten. My first book I wrote, the questions at the back of the chapter, I thought they were simple. Students didn't think so. And a student in Northwest Arkansas just chewed up and down about the questions at the end of the chapter and how hard they were. And I said, thank you. And she said, what do you mean, thank you? And I said, well, I'm the author. And she went, oh, I wouldn't have said anything. And that's what I found frequently. So I get honest feedback before I disclose who I am.
Yeah. You're not Larry Bauer, so.
That I found out a whole lot of good information about that. And the questions at the end of the chapter are not written to know if you understand the material anymore. They're written to see that you've read the material.
Yeah.
You don't understand it until a faculty member has gone through and explained the subtleties, added the material in there and the depth that you just can't put in a book.
Yeah.
And so I've changed the philosophy of the question at the end of the chapter, as with the workbook and the questions that are in the test bank.
Do the questions in the test bank, and we may have talked about this yesterday, do they have additional knowledge feedback, or just the typical, oh, you did a great job, or sorry, try again? One of the things I try to do on my quiz questions when I write them to use on an online LMS is even put information in there for the questions that they answered incorrectly.
The simulator has if you pick the wrong answer, it'll tell you that this is wrong and this is why. Not initially. You get another try at it. Then it'll come back and tell you.
Yeah. I did a CWI, like I said, a flipped classroom where we met face to face, but I would put some kind of feedback in many of the questions that would even if they got it right, it would bump them up to go look at something on the next level, or confirm what they, why that's true, kind of thing.
And you and I talked yesterday about how important it is, no matter how bad the weld is, the student hands you, you got to find something on there, you can go, see that spot right there? That's perfect.
Yeah.
Now this over here, you can lose a little work with.
Yeah.
If everything you give them back is negative, then you'll lose them.
So talking about feedback though, I have 62 students altogether. And I put this out on the 29th after last meeting. I've had 20 high school students respond back and give me anonymous feedback. It's anonymous. I don't know whose it is. For the welding instructors that I've had contact with 120 of them, I've got 16. So, you know, we can't complain a whole lot about participation. Just based on that little bit of trivia right there, I can't say, well, my students won't participate. Shoot, I know full-grown adults want to participate. You know, they just want to watch and be done with. Nothing wrong with that. I mean, it's all learning.
It's like politics. They'll complain and complain and complain, but they won't go vote.
Yeah, and this is an ideal place to complain because it's all anonymous. There's no IP. It's just a Google form. You go back and complain 20 times, and
I think
because they're always on their phone, they're not working.
I was gonna say,
they see all your emails.
Yeah.
In my, but I wasn't on April 29th, so I didn't.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like.
And this is actually, I need to change that title right there. Yeah, so it's just going to be cumulative. So if you log in and or you don't have to log in, you just click on the form again and do something, and it'll come out in the email. But it's, it's helpful for me to kind of realize, one of the things that I tried to change this last time was giving everybody an opportunity to talk a little bit more, even though I can't hardly shut up. But and doing the main presentation first. Somebody had made a suggestion earlier before they left on the chat, which I think is a good idea, to maybe go over the form that everybody fills out or that they're supposed to fill out ahead of time, this pre-meeting form. If, right before the meeting, 10 minutes before the meeting, I checked it, I only had 6 responses. The link was sent out to, like I said, well over 100 people. But one of the statements was, go over this first. And that way we would have covered the information about the fellow from Sweden that had questions maybe while he was still here or she was still here. I don't really know. But that's a tool that I can use to kind of guide the meetings and stuff like that. But it ain't no big deal. We can also just, do the presentation. The Cengage guy did a really good job. I've been talking with them, looking at their stuff. I learned quite a few little things about it. So I'm kind of excited if I can figure out how to, one of the things about it that we didn't mention during the meeting, because the electronic seats can oftentimes be bought on Perkins money because it's not an actual textbook. It's kind of STEM related, that kind of stuff. So you may be able to get the seats through Perkins, depending on what your state's requirements are. So I'm kind of, my primary goal with teaching my students really isn't about the academic part of it. I mean, it's important and I want to get it in there, and I want my students to be the smartest welders that they've ever come out of a 12th grade shop. But I want them to also be able to weld better than anybody else too. Mm-hmm. So that's going to be where the majority of the focus is. If I can get them doing some online book stuff, then I want them to do it. One of the things I've mentioned before, and like I said, some of y'all may have heard it, I had a job at maintenance in a paper mill, and it was $38.75 an hour. I had to answer a 150 question test before I got to my first interview with 5 different people. It was a group of 5 people. So I tell my students that, I said, this book knowledge, we can scoff at it, but it can also come in handy someday. But again, when I've made my best money as a tube welder, they didn't care about what was between my ears. They wanted to know about my hand-eye coordination. Amen. I get spirit sometimes. I can't help myself.
Just out of curiosity, one of the things that my school is thinking about, if we can do a kind of a combination, is split the classes in half and have half the classes come on Monday and Wednesday and the other half Tuesday, Thursday, and then do online on like Friday. Has anybody else in any of the states have they talked about that? Or
I think that's what, they had mentioned something, but they called it an A/B schedule. And okay. I think that's what they were talking about doing.
I kind of like that idea if that's the best we can do to get them into the shop.
Yeah, I mean, if for mine, as an example, I have them for my first semester students, I have for an hour a day. They get 5 hours a week. So if I could get them for 4 hours a week and just an hour of book work, that's about what I'm doing now. I mean, I make every one of my classes, we talk for 15 to 20 minutes, whether it's a lab day or whether it's we go in the lab every day, but we also talk about theory every day. Oh,
What state are you from?
I'm in
Jody.
Jody.
Oh, Illinois.
Illinois.
Yeah.
But that's why I kind of like to have my ducks in a row for the online stuff. I've got my own that I've been slowly working on and trying to decide what to incorporate, into my Moodle course. And there's a whole lot of different options out there. But the Cengage has got me the most excited for two reasons. One of them is because I can actually add content to what they've got, or I can incorporate it into mine. And then the other thing is the fact that our TCAS, the Tennessee College of Applied Technology, which has a night class here, that's their same book. So the welding instructor here, he teaches out of that book. If my students were already familiar with it when they got there, then they're going to get to spend more lab time. That's about the gist of it for the world according to Gerald that I'm going to bother y'all with today. But like I said, I could stay here and talk for, I told my wife I'll be home about 5:30 for dinner. So I got another hour or so. William, what about you? How's your, well, Jody and William, you guys both teach high school, is that correct?
Yes.
Yes.
How many students do you have, William?
I teach 2 blocks of 3 hours and 16 per class.
How many booths do you have?
17, 18.
Okay. What about you, Jody? What's your ratio kind of like?
So it kind of depends on the year, but I generally start off with about 20 to 25 in a class. But I have both Welding 1 and Welding 2 in the same classroom. And I have 2 block periods there, an hour and a half each. But I have 12 booths.
That's about what I've got. I can have up to 25 students. The most that I've had in any one class was 22. And I've got 11 booths. And then I've got, one oxide settling station. And I've got another machine that's kind of set off that industry, donated a Pulse, a Miller Continuum. No, it's one of their previous one before the Continuum. But anyway, so I've got limited spots. I've got to double up.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything that you do to stress how important that art time is to students? I mean, I do, but I was kind of wondering, Jody probably more than William. You get 2 high school people in a booth.
Yeah. So I try, my biggest thing is figuring out who my lazy ones are and pairing them with strong welders who want to weld, because then they kind of push the weaker ones.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I was going to say, putting 2 lazy ones in a booth together, all they do is talk and draw inappropriate things on.
Yeah. One of the things I thought about doing, I thought about art timers, but it's too expensive. Now, where I taught before, I had XMT 350s and the Miller X72 wire feeder, what it was. So I could actually get data off of the machine at the end of every class. So one of the first things I do is preach to my students. I said, I taught adults. My most productive adult doing MIG welding was a 35% duty cycle, or 35% production factor is really what it is for a welder. And I said that was the guy that never went out to take a break, never come out of his booth unless he ran out of material. And that was me providing him about 15 T-joints or 10 T-joints already tacked up to weld. Because that was what I did it was a MIG only class. I would tack them stuff together during the day. So when they came in, their assignment was to make me 5 single pass fillet welds, and I would look at them, and then we would use the remainder of the sides to do the rest of the class. But anyway, what I've thought about doing in here, because I don't have access to arc timer on the little Millermatic 252s and the Dial Arc 250s, is putting a light sensor in there and wiring it up with what's called an Arduino, which is a little microcontroller that can be programmed to do different things. And one of those things could be to just recognize the bright light and maybe have it set up where, or put cameras in the booth at X $1,000 a pop, but have it set up to where it would monitor how much arc light time there was in each booth. and see who the winner of the day was and who the loser of the day was.
A suggestion.
To really respond good to competition, even the ones that weren't good welders. I've had maybe one out of a group of 20 say, I'm not comfortable doing this. I don't want to put my weld up here on the table and have everybody grade it. And they're anonymous anyway. I said, well, we just go over everybody's and you'll see where yours goes.
Gerald?
Yeah.
One of the things that I did, I used an induction coil around one of the leads.
Yeah.
Put that to a relay. And then I bought alarm clocks, not the digital, but the old type that you could set the dial manually. And so you'd set it at 12 o'clock. You hook it up to the coil, and you'd come back and see what time it was. If it was 2 o'clock and it was 3 o'clock, they welded 2/3 of the time.
They did 2/3. They were smoking.
They're smoking. And so you could easily do, but to find those alarm clocks today is just about impossible. But what you're talking about, rather than have a light sensor, what you can do is the induction coil, and the induction coil can fire a relay easily. You just need enough wire wrapped around it to pick the signal up.
But it just works on the secondary side, or will it work on the power draw over the AC side on the input power?
I put it on the output.
Yeah.
Because that was the easiest place to get it.
So I can do it on the work lead that way.
Yeah. Just wrap it around the work lead, and the disadvantage of putting it on the primary side is it's hot all the time, and you can get a lot of arc on time. That it's not really arc on time. It's just induction loss.
You have to be able to filter it down between the amperage draw or something.
Yeah. So you just crank it around it, and if it's not welding, it's not reading.
Yeah. But that's one of my problems I'd had with the fact that I've got less boosts than I do students. Double them up is nice if they work good together and give each other feedback and help each other. Man, it's awesome. But when it's, oh, we're going to both go out and cool our metal off at the same time. Whenever I walk by one of those booths and I don't see the fire, it makes me want to say ugly things.
One of the other things is my second years, I tend to make into, I'll make one of them the, shop manager for each day or whatever. And so they're kind of learning those leadership skills as well as helping to make sure that the others are staying on task. Because when you have 25 of them or 20 even and one instructor, and you're trying to help up your puts down, and they're just getting into everything.
Yeah, my ideal number, and again, I did workforce training and community college stuff before I did this. This is my first high school class. Was 7 to 10 tops beginners was the most I could handle and keep them on the same learning curve as far as developing their core skills and that kind of stuff. Once it got more than that, I couldn't spend enough time with them. Now, once they get advanced or they get a little bit higher skill, then I felt kind of comfortable, just go do your thing. I didn't have to go out there and touch their hands and see what they were doing. We could communicate enough to where when they brought me a weld and showed it to me, we could talk about it. But in the beginning, and I've told my students this and adults, if you go to a beginning class you've never welded before and your teacher's telling you what to do by you bringing them a weld, and I may hurt one of y'all's feelings, okay, there's only 4 of us here now. But if you're bringing your weld to your instructor and you're just beginning and he's telling you what you've done wrong, you've been robbed. Yeah, that's just all there is to it. If you're not going out there in the booth with a student, touching their hands, seeing what they're doing, seeing how they're preparing their place to rest with their body, you're doing them a terrible disservice at the beginning. So that's very time consuming. But now when they get advanced, of course, like I said, they can bring me something and show me some undercut, and I can say, well, it's, either your arc length was too long, and more than likely that was it, because it almost always happens, or, you're running your 332 7018 on the settings that you had for 1/8. Did you not swap them over? Oh yeah, I forgot.
Yeah. What polarity?
Yeah. Oh, hey, I walked into 3 college welding shops in the last 5 years and heard people welding with 7018 on electrode negative. You can hear it when you walk in.
Yeah.
I said, did you know your folks are welding on the wrong polarity? No, it's on reverse polarity. I said, reverse polarity means the rod's positive. Well, yeah, that's what they're on. I said, no, they're not. Well, let's go look at it. I said, all right, let's go look. They'd flip up the cover on the machine, and sure enough, it's on electrode negative. So it always kind of hurt my feeling when I realized that students had probably been putting up with that for quite a while.
They do a bad job for cutting thin metal.
Yeah. And hey, a 6010 on straight polarity, it does a pretty good job on root pass, even though AWSA 5.1 doesn't say anything about it. It's a DC reverse polarity rod only. You put one of them on straight polarity and lay it in there in the groove, it'll do a pretty good job.
Well, I'm getting to a point where I have another meeting coming up.
Yeah.
Yeah. I actually had another meeting come up a little while ago. I've enjoyed visiting with everyone,
Man, yeah.
and look forward to hearing from you. And I will see you next week, I hope.
All right, man. Have a good one, Mr. Jeffs. Hey, it was great having you here. Like I said, I'll be bugging you again. I could talk more than we probably should.
One of the things that I've really had a problem with AWS, and I just finished a book for them, Fundamentals of Welding. And one of the problems I had is they said welding teachers, they're all energetic, they're all this. I said, no, they're not. The ones that come to your courses, the ones that come and talk with you, they're the good instructors. There are instructors out there, like the ones you just talked about, that didn't know which polarity was on what. I mean, you can tell that when you get out of the car in the parking lot, just about.
Yeah.
There are a lot of instructors out there, they're good old boys, but they're not welding educators. And those are the ones that AWS needs to be talking with and working with.
And it's not even their knowledge, Larry. You know, because I mean, you put me in the right industry and the right group of people. I know you got to go. I'm an idiot. Okay, you put me on cross-country pipeline trying to train a kid how to burn a 316 7010 downhill. I'm useless. You put me on some other things, I can help them out.
I grab that stinger right by the end, put my finger on the rod, and just work it.
Yeah, but there's a guy on here that mentioned using his SA200 and showing people how to use it. I told him, I said, I wasn't joking with him. I'd like to have a pipeliner come by my shop and show me and my students at the same time some things about, because that's an industry I've never worked in. I've been welding for 40 years, but I'm not worthy to go out on a pipeline job as a helper, to be honest with you. Number one, I'm too old and fat. But number two, that's not an industry that I've worked in. So there's so many niches that we've got to learn about. But to me, the thing that really brings an instructor down is the old retired guy that did 20 years somewhere, and all he's ever done is this one thing. And he's not
20 years with the same thing.
Else. That's the dangerous instructor, because their excitement's not there. You guys are obviously excited because you've done spent over 2 hours talking about this stuff. You know, so that's a dead giveaway.
Well, and I would say a lot of the high school welding instructors, like I only worked in the industry for about 3 years, and it was all MIG welding. So basically I taught myself stick after I became a welding instructor. I taught myself TIG. And then you've got your ag teachers who just fiddle in welding, but they have that in their background, so they get pulled in to teach the welding class.
Yeah.
You know, most of us the teacher before me went and took a summer welding course before he was thrown in to teach the welding. So, I mean, most of us don't have the knowledge that a lot of people who were in the industry for years have. And it's trying to not just teach yourself, but also teach your students. And if you've never used code and don't know anything about code, how do you really teach
you
that?
Just call me if you've ever got any questions. I'll just tell you that. But that's one of the things that's great about these meetings, in my opinion, because I'd always, that weldedinstructors.org website, I've owned that domain for 10 years. Because I always wanted to be able to get a group of welded instructors together. This thing here has been kind of because I want to pick their brains, not because I want to share all my stuff with them, but I want to pick their brains.
I think it's funny when I get onto something like this, I'm amazed at the wealth of knowledge that you guys have. And I have a round table we try to do with the welding instructors in my area, and they think I'm the smart one. And I go, nah, I don't really, but they know less than I do. So I look really intelligent to them. And then I come on here and you guys seem very intelligent to me. So it works.
Just think how this would be if we could do it together face to face and actually weld. You know, that's what I wanted to set up last year in Virginia. I was working for a nonprofit up there, but I'd love to do that this year sometime where we actually got together and met at a shop We did some of the regular talking stuff about the theory or whatever it may be about how we do things. But also go out there and, the one guy that's a jam up Schedule 10 stainless steel welder, let him go out there and show you how to walk a cup. The other guy that can set up and run a flux core gun with both self-shielded and with dual shield. And I'm not talking about the Hobart or the Hobby Lobby, or not the Hobby Lobby, the home use type self-shield. I'm talking about the T8s and stuff like that. And let that guy show you some things. Let the guy that can, lay out and cut bevels and make a branch connection on a pipe in 20 minutes that looks like it was done by machine. There's so many different skills that we have as instructors. Like I said, I've been in it 40 years and I've just touched the surface of this trade. You put me in the right group of people and I'm a non-skilled idiot. And that's why I like teaching the ninth graders, because they think I'm something.
I appreciate everything and looking forward to seeing some of you tomorrow and definitely be back online next week.
All right, Larry, have a good one, man.
All right.
Take care.
How do I get out of here?
Hit that. Leave the meeting.
Down at the corner, there's leave the meeting. So move your mouse.
Down the bottom corner.
Yeah, wait.
Right.
Corner.
I don't have anything on the right corner.
Well, they
move
can't
your
afford
mouse?
that on a Mac. If you move your mouse cursor up and down, there should be a pop-up bar that will come in. Or even
Who has?
I can throw you off the meeting.
Yep.
There you go. He's gone.
So there's a meeting tomorrow. Is that what you said for Welding?
That's Welding. So I think I'm still sharing my screen, right?
Yes.
So there's a Welding Facebook group.
Okay.
Called the Welding Resource Center. It's a private group. You can request to join. And I'm on it, but they'll post their meetings right there. So I've actually posted the link in the chat box.
Okay.
Okay, so if you go to the chat box and scroll up, that'll be it. And it's at 1 o'clock tomorrow. Looks like they're talking about whatever S-P2 is in their online curriculum, and also mate precision tooling, talking about press brakes and bending. And like I said, I'm going to try to make it. But there's there's definitely some good information that's shared everywhere. It's not as much. They do a better job managing the meeting than I do, I guess, is the easiest way to say it. They get in there, get it done, that kind of stuff. Whereas I could probably, like I said, that was one of the complaints on the feedback form, was going on too long and they had to leave, but you can leave at any time. So, but they're a group right there. I'll put I'll put that in the chat box too, and you'll have an actual link.
Okay, guys, I got to take off.
Hey man, I appreciate your time. I appreciate you hanging out with me and talking for a little bit, for sure. Like I said, I'll put a recording up of this once I process it. It'll be available. But again, it's pretty long to sit through and just watch again. But it's kind of fun too. Let it play in the background. You can just listen to it while you're driving.
Thank you.
All right,
Thank you.
Good. You done too, Jody? Got any?
Yep, I think so.
Okay, like I said, y'all feel free to email me or whatever if you got questions, and that doesn't mean I know them, but I'll put you in. I know people that know stuff.
Oh, that would be good. I could use all the people that know things.
That's right. I'm not too proud to. Again, there's lots of things I'd like to have some help with. So have a good one, Jody.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.